NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the turn. And now the 93, 39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's the race to the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh,
As you love it.
here we go.
You love it. The 1 gets around. The 5 gets around. Big jump.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
The summer break is over and the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series returns here today on RaceSpotTV. Drivers are currently on track for qualifying for this, the 10th round of the championship held at Twin Ring Motegi. Drivers have got themselves a total of 3 laps to go as fast as they can in this 15-minute qualifying session to determine pole position for the 10th round of the championship. Can Gregor Hutu make it 6 wins in a row? Can Hugo Louise potentially finally break that string of bad luck? What about the Glacier Racing drivers? What about the drivers from Orion Racing, from Apex Racing and INX Racing? What can they do after the summer break? Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to qualifying for the 10th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series here today from Twin Ring Motegi. Wolverhampton, along with Aaron Likens, Daniel Benefield and Jake Cameron, as qualifying is taking place right now. And Jake, I'll come to you first. These drivers have had some time to get themselves a bit of a respite. And one of those drivers especially is going to be Hugo Louise. He really, really needs to hope that his second half of the season goes a lot better than the first.
Definitely will. His first half of the season was not one of the best we've ever seen from Hugo. His pit stops definitely need some improvement, and hopefully he has worked on that during the summer break, because that's where he was losing a lot of time, 2, maybe 3 seconds at some races. And if he can work on that, I'm sure he can actually cause an upset and close in that 99-point gap between him and Gregor Hutu in the championship.
We are going to have a very quick look at Gregor Hutu, who of course is that 3-time champion. And Aaron, Gregor Hutu is just absolutely fascinating at all that he does. And he's got to make sure that he just continues that championship offensive.
Yeah, when you get momentum, it just seems to keep building. And when you're having a season like that, going for 6 in a row, the momentum seems to be up there. And for everybody else, that makes it harder. When you have a driver like Gregor Hutu, who, well, he always seems to be in the zone, but when he can string them together like this, it makes it for the competition so difficult. So we'll see if Hugo Luis has anything for him today, or anybody else in the field.
You can see provisional pole position right now. That is Enzo Benito in the number 17 Fanatec Team Redline car. But Gregor Hutu's working himself now down towards the end of the lap. Just a couple of corners left for him to go. Going to ride on board as he comes through this section of the racetrack. Will he be able to get provisional pole position on this, his first run? The answer to that question is going to be not yet. No, not quite there for Gregor Hutu, but his lap pretty fast so far as he's got to continue around the racetrack. A couple of drivers on laps right now. We'll check in with a couple of them very quickly. We have got Martin Kroenke. He is currently circling on the racetrack, and he's going to be looking for a very good race in that 3ID car today, Daniel.
Yeah, definitely. Martin Kroenke has been pretty consistent across the whole season, consistently in the top 5, getting results, and that's what's put him so high in the championship, and that's what he's renowned for in this series.
And he continues along his way right now. Enzo Benito is still classified in provisional pole position right now. But these drivers, as I said before, they've got themselves a couple of laps, 3 laps in total, to try and get themselves as high up the grid as they possibly can. Martin Kroenke is one of those drivers looking to do that here today. So, it's still Benito on pole, but let's check in with Martin Kroenke for the last couple of corners of his lap. Is he going to go any faster? The answer, we're going to find out right now as he comes past the start-finish line, and it is going to be a 1 minute 23.404. Not good enough there for pole position. Martin Kroenke, that is his qualifying done. But we've got to pay attention to a couple of other people. Still, Gregor Hutu out on the racetrack. Let's see what he can do. As actually, Gregor Hutu does a 23.642, so he doesn't go faster. Andre Borcha just comes past the start-finish line there. He's going to come past, and he is going a 123.768. That moves him up the field a little bit, and that is his qualifying now done. Hugo Luis, however, P6 for the time being, and that is going to be hugely upsetting for him there, Jake.
Yeah, hugely upsetting there for Hugo. We expected a lot more from him. I think he's still got a couple of laps left, though, to run, unless he's taken them all and we've missed a couple of them. But Gregor Hutu still has a few laps to run as well, and he's got a little time to catch up onto Hugo, so that could be Gregor jumping Hugo again, and it could be a bad run of luck again for Hugo here today.
Alex Simpson, he's just moved himself up into provisional 5th place on the racetrack, doing a 1 minute 23.719. His fastest lap was a 1 minute 23.606. Sterling job so far, you're going to have to say, Aaron, for Alex Simpson in that Apex Racing UK car.
Oh, very good. Just got relegated to the 6th position, but just 2200s off pole. Great run. That was Yuho Abe getting the 5th position, so that was a good lap at a 23.596. But for Alex Simpson right now, 6th starting spot, and if that can hold, that will be a very good spot on the grid.
So Paul Ilbrink in that Team Radical Still Series car, working himself down towards the end of the lap right now. And as he comes down into that very tight section that concludes the lap, he's really just going to hope that he gets it all together for these last couple of corners, get himself a good starting position for this race. He's had some good runs so far in this series. However, he's quite often started lower down the field. He's really going to be hoping today, as he comes past the start-finish line, to get a little bit more speed. He's now on his fast lap. Got other people on fast laps as well. Jake Sturgis, look at him. Provisionally in 3rd place on the racetrack, Jake.
Yeah, great qualifying here so far from Sturgis. He's actually now on a flying lap as well. So this is going to be his final of the laps as he now comes down the home straight. Maybe not, that's not the home straight, sorry, that just looks like it.
It's the back straightaway.
It's great start from him today. He's been showing some good strengths as well in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze series as well, running both the series, one of the only drivers this season to do that. And he's really shown some strength in this series as well.
On board with Jake Sturgis as he comes past the line. Will he be able to improve on his qualifying time in that number 4 iNext Racing car? Well, he doesn't. No, he doesn't there, but he looks as though that is going to be one more lap for him to try and get himself into pole position. But Jake, Enzo Benito, we've talked about him all season long, having a very tough season. He goes out, puts his car on provisional pole position. Great job by him.
Yeah, tough season. Like, we looked at Watkins Glen, he had a really good, solid car there, but he wasn't able to make it work and get onto the podium. But he's been in and out of that top 5, top 10 place all season, but I think it's that bad run of luck that he's had. And if that luck can change, then I'm sure he's definitely in for a good result today at Motegi, and I'm sure that he can produce something magical.
On board right now with Hugo Louise in the Prix Motorsports car. He is working himself on a last-ditch lane. He's currently sat, get this, Aaron, in the 7th place in qualifying. And we'll talk more about how difficult it can be to pass on this racetrack. This is not a track where you want to start P7 with your closest rival only 1 place behind you and still looking to go faster on the racetrack.
Oh, certainly. Both, I believe, Hugo Luis and Gregor Hutu on what I think is going to be their final flying lap, but going to be interesting if this shapes up with them both P7, P8 in the grid. Passing here, difficult. That first lap's going to be hectic, and Hugo Luis definitely can make his job a little bit easier, qualifying higher, but at the same time, Gregor Hutu has a couple turns to go on his final flying lap.
So Hugo Louise here moves himself into position to make that last-ditch attempt. You've also got Gregor Hutu on the racetrack as well. Provisionally, as it stands, your top 5 as Hutu goes 4th there. Gregor Hutu outside of our screen moves himself up into the 4th place in timing and scoring. So it's right now Benito from Cronke, from Sturgis from Hutu, then Philo, Abe, Simpson, Hugo Louise all the way down in 8th, Antoine Hegley, Jeremy Bootloop, they round out your top 10. This lap we're looking at right now for Hugo Louise in that 3D Motorsports car. This could be another defining moment of his season, Daniel. If he doesn't get this right, he can almost kiss that championship goodbye.
Yes, it could be, Will. I mean, Hugo Louise so far this season has 4 pole positions. Gregor Hutu currently being 4th. If Hugo can get pole here, it can give him a big advantage going into this race and maybe get him back into this championship.
Working himself down the back straight away, one of our many onboard cameras for you in this event here today, up to 185 miles an hour before braking very deeply for the last couple of corners on this racetrack. Will Hugo Louise be able to get himself a little bit further up the grid? This is the big story in the dying moments of qualifying out the final corner. It's not going to happen. Hugo Louise runs out of time. He's not going to get the job done. He will start in 8th place in this race, and Jake, that is huge.
Wow. I'm shocked. He got very loose there on the last couple of turns as well when he came down that long right-hander. He got very loose on the exit of that, and then he went into that sweeping left-hander the final 2 turns, and he just got very loose, and there was enough time for him on the clock to continue, Will. I think he just maybe thought that he didn't have enough to get to that line after he made them few little mistakes at the end there. So very unfortunate for Hugo, and that's that bad run of luck, unfortunately, we've seen him have, Will. It's not going to change in the second half of the season from what we've seen in qualifying, but maybe the race time, it could be a bit better.
Okay then, let's run through your final qualifying results. And it is Enzo Benito for Team Redline, scoring himself his first pole position of the season. Martin Cronke will line up alongside him in row number 1, just 2/100ths of a second further back. Jake Sturgis, one of his best qualifyings of the season, in 3rd in the Inex Racing car, and the 2nd Team Redline car lining up on the outside of row number 2. Then you got Mogar Philo in 5th, Yuhu Abe in 6th, Alex Simpson 7th, Hugo Louise all the way down in the 8th position. Then 2 Frenchmen, Antoine Heglin and Jeremy Bootloop, lining up on the 5th row of the grid. Over to page number 2, then it's going to be Andre Borcher in 11th, Oli Picana, Kazuki Omishima, Isaac Price, Robin Friscops and Rocco Baroni. They are drivers 11 through 16. Yoni Tamala, Fulvio Barazzini, Paul Ilbrink and Dion Burgess round out your top 20. Biggest surprise of qualifying for you, Aaron?
Oh, biggest surprise, definitely Hugo Luis, P8, but it is P8, but what separates him and Gregor Hutu is just around 2/100ths of a second. So we're not talking that much between 4th and 8th, but passing here, it may be 200ths in qualifying, but when it comes race time, you lose a lot of ground quickly if you can't make up those spots. So Gregor Hutu gonna be sitting pretty in terms of the championship with his competitor 4 spots behind him.
And we will show you a little bit more of qualifying in just a little bit. But Jake, this one really gets me. Not just Hugo Luis, but Enzo Benito, his first pole position, and also the kind of disparity between the 3ID Motorsports drivers. Only really Martin Kroenke making an impression in the top 5. This is something we haven't seen in a very long time from that camp.
No, from the 3ID camp, we're used to seeing a lot of dominance in that top 5. They round out nearly every single race in the past couple of seasons, but this year we've seen a lot of change. In the Glacier Racing guys come through. We've also seen Kazuki Yamashima come through as well on his own, and that's something that has changed this season. I think it's made it a lot better of a series this season, Will, and I'm sure everyone watching will agree with that as well, because it's not just the same drivers each week in that top 5. But congratulations to Enzo, first pole position this season, and maybe it could be some more, Will. Maybe we could see his season take a big uphill.
And in many ways, you could almost say it's about time that his season took a bit of a change, Jake, because he really struggled in the first half of this championship campaign. And, of course, he had that up-and-down moment at Belgium to start off the season. And since then, he's had some good races. We will give him that. But to be the number 2 driver of one of the most successful sim racing teams in the world, Benito needed to prove himself. I think he's done that now with that pole position. And if he can convert that into a race victory, then I think we can finally say Benito's arrived.
Yeah, you can, but to be the number 2 driver at Redline, but to sit behind Gregor Hutu, who is the all-time best driver in this series, is a big thing to do, because I feel sorry for him, because there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, because he has to expect to be performing like Gregor, because they're obviously running on the same strategy, same setup-ish, suited to them, so he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and I think maybe over that summer break, he's taken that pressure on board and he's thought, right, I need to improve from here. This is where I can improve, and this is where I can do this and that. And I think Gregor could have helped him as well and told him not to let that pressure get to him, and he really has shown that pressure where to go today.
And Daniel, as far as Gregor Hutu goes, he's not had the best qualifyings of his career so far this year. 4th place outside row number 2. And before we went on air, we did talk about how this track can be one that is notoriously difficult to overtake on. Yes, you got the opportunity into turn number 1 and turn 2 and technically also turn 3. But then, really, your big passing opportunity as you come down the hill at the end of the lap, if you don't make it there, it can be very tough to not only pass here, but keep a hold of your tyres, your nerves, your concentration, and your frustrations.
Yeah, definitely will. One of the hardest tracks on the service, in my opinion, to pass on. But we saw at Silverstone, Gregor just hold back in third behind the 2 Glacier Racing drivers of UCI Ariola and I've forgotten who the other one was. Sorry,
Ollie Picala. There you are.
Ollie Picala, that's who it was. And we saw that Gregor only took the lead after the pit stops. He took advantage of the pit stops to take the lead of the race there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the same thing today from Gregor Hutu.
But Aaron, a lot to happen in the next couple of hours here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. And we are past the halfway point season in the championship. We did that last time out at Silverstone. But this long summer break means that now drivers, they classify this as that dash to the flag. You've got to start it with a good result, not only for the guys battling for the championship, but guys fighting in the top 5, in the top 10, and also to remain in the top 25 to keep their WCS license for next year.
Indeed, and this track can bring out, watching a lot of the cars in qualifying, the hairpin leading down towards that passing zone you mentioned after the back straightaway. A lot of cars very twitchy, very unstable there, and with such a long break, and now the points picture coming together, drivers are either going to be points racing and being conservative, and you're going to have those that are going to get a little desperate and might go over that razor's edge, or make a move, try to make a pass, try to make something that isn't there. So today's race is going to have a lot of varying storylines, varying strategies, and it should be very interesting to see how it plays out.
I think the big question to ask right now, Jake, is can Benito translate this into a race victory, or is it just perhaps a waiting game until his nemesis, I say nemesis, until, his team leader, Gregor Hutu, comes along, or maybe one of the Glacier Racing guys, or Jake Sturgios, because we'll come back to Jake in a moment, but he is due a victory in this series.
Yeah, Enzo, I think he can actually hold out. We've seen good runs from him to start with, Will, but it always gets to when he's pit stop. He's the same as a Hugo Luis, really. He starts to slow down after his pit stop. So whether he can nail that second half of his race today will be crucial for him if he's on the podium at the end of the race. But as you say about Jake Sturgios, he is due a victory. He's had some very solid performances this season, along with his teammate Isaac Price. Both guys in that iNext Racing camp, and they've really started to show this season as well.
And for Jake Sturgios as well, let's not forget, Jake, that he could be the first driver in the history of iRacing to win a race in both the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series and also the NASCAR Peak Anti-Free Series powered by iRacing.com as well. And what an achievement if he could get that done here at Motegi.
Yeah, it would be something no one would ever think of doing, Will. How can you run two of the biggest series on iRacing and still get consistent finishes and even win races? It's incredible what he's doing, and the amount of time he must put in and effort. I salute him and take my hat off to him because he is an incredible driver in both the NASCAR and the F1 series. So congratulations to Jake, and hopefully he can bring it home on that P1 spot today. It'd be nice to see.
It really would be interesting. It'd be nice to see. You're completely right. And I think that he's got to really just hope that it all works out for him. We are, by the way, in just one moment's time, going to show you the pole position lap from Enzo Benito. In fact, we'll get that up on your screen in just one moment's time. But I think that you look at the storylines here today, everyone's had a mixed bag day, and I think the one team that's really stood out, Jake, finally, that Radical Steel Series team, getting themselves some good places there. 2 drivers in the top 10.
Yeah, 2 drivers, top 10. That's what they need. They've not had the best of season, shall we say, to start with, and maybe it's going to be their changing point as well. Maybe they've had a very solid summer break, took a little time out, maybe got a group together, had a little chat and said we need to work on this area of our setups, of our team, of our strategies, and maybe it could be their second half of the season, Will, and that's something we're going to have to find out over these next couple of races.
So then we are now just going to bring you the onboard lap for Enzo Benito. We're going to get this one rolling for you. Overall, it was a rather solid lap, as I say. Just going to put it on for you right now. And here he is. And it wasn't an overly special lap for Enzo Benito. It was just one that seemed to work out for him, Aaron.
And I made reference to that. So many of these cars looked very twitchy. So really, it was really the driver who maybe didn't go the fastest, but who could put down the solid lap and keep their car really pointed in the right direction without getting that wheel slip out of the tight corners. That's where I think Benito made his time up. That's where Hutu and Luis both struggled. We saw Luis's final lap very twitchy in those corners. So for Benito, just smooth and was able to just put down essentially the cleanest lap of them all.
And we're just having a look on board of him now. We're going to switch back to our TV cameras. And that's as he's working through that S section of the racetrack. A little bit of a wiggle as he works himself down towards the second slowest corner on the racetrack. Really got to be good on the brakes here. And work yourself out the corner, down. This is a support race pit road here. One that Jake got himself a little bit confused with a moment ago. Down the crest of the hill you come. You can brake so late into this corner. It is unbelievable. Then you come through this corner, then these last couple of corners are absolutely breathtaking. You've really got to take it with all it's worth. This is where Hugo Luis messed up in his qualifying run. Out the final corner you come, bit more of a wiggle, and that is Enzo Benito on pole position here today. And a well-deserved pole position for him on that one also. So well done to Enzo Benito, first pole position for Team Redline, and still got plenty more to talk about as we get closer and closer to race time. Aaron, it's normally at this time that I ask who you think is going to be the victor for this race, and I think it's actually going to be the most difficult of the season to even consider. Okay, I will just move that question over to Jake.
Well, Will, it's going to be a very interesting one, really. I can't call it at the moment. I really can't. Looking through this field, and the times are just so close between Enzo Benito and Kroenke. only 200ths of a second separating them, sorry. And then from Sturgios all the way back down to Alex Simpson in 7th, so that's 3rd to 7th. There's only the same amount of time between Benito and Kroenke separating them. So I really cannot say who's going to win this. It's too close, but if I had to put it down to 2 drivers, I would say it would be either Gregor Houtu or Martin Kroenke that will show through.
Well, that is going to be a very interesting conversation for you. Daniel, who do you think is going to win it here today?
I reckon, I mean, we've seen it many times this season and over the history of this series. Gregor Houtu's pace through the mid-run of the middle section of the race. I reckon once everyone pits, Gregor will go longer like he normally does and just put blistering lap times in and jump everyone and win the race.
Aaron?
Oh, wow. I think we're going to see either Benito or Sturgis or Houtu here. But look for, I'm thinking Hugo Luis or those in the middle pack, they might have to change their pit strategy somewhat. If you get a long train of cars here, you could be losing a quarter second or more each lap. So you got to get out of that. You got to get clean track. So I think for Hugo Luis, he's going to have to pull something out, and I think he's going to be capable of it, but going to be interesting to see if he can work that strategy in his favor.
The track conditions here today, though, we haven't yet talked about that, Daniel. They're tough. Northeasterly wind of 4 miles an hour. Cool track temperature of just 65 degrees Fahrenheit. 100% relative humidity. That can really play into the hands of some of these drivers. It's actually going to make dirty air very difficult as well.
Yeah, and also make cold tyres very difficult to get up to temperature. So we may see the drivers skating around off the start as well. So it should be interesting watching off the start. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, the drivers will use it to their advantage in overall pace once the field gets strung out. But it should be very interesting the first couple of laps.
Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, after we go off air a little bit later on here today, don't forget, we've got ourselves the 5th annual iRacing.com Indianapolis 500 on PSR TV and iRacing Live. Join myself, Will Benson, along with Aaron Likens and Paul Jenkins as we go for 800 corners, 200 laps that make up the Indianapolis 500 for the 5th time on iRacing Live and PSR TV. We'll be with you on that one from 6 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So we'll see you a little bit later on for that one. And Aaron, to look forward a couple of hours, we're going to have an absolutely crazy race. We have got to give a very quick congratulations to Jonathan Goke, winning the first Indy 500 of the weekend in absolutely blistering fashion. The only way that you can do it with some fuel mileage.
No, fuel mileage, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about that later today for that race, and going to be an honor to join you in the booth for that race. Been looking forward to it, and so many unknowns as we watch now the second 500 miler. So for these drivers, they now know a little bit about what their car is going to do. So today's race, I think, is going to be a little bit more hectic than yesterday, as now drivers have a little bit more confidence and a little bit more understanding of the way the race dynamics are going to unfold.
That's a little bit later on. But first, of course, we've got to get ourselves ready for the race. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to step aside for just 1 moment's time, and then we'll be back with race coverage for the 10th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series from Twin Ring Motegi. It's Enzo Benito on pole position, but there's still an absolute ton of racing to come your way on RaceSpotTV, and we'll be right back after these short messages.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 to Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the turn. And now the 93-39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's the race for the win up front.
Look behind him. There's 3 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh
As you
my
love it.
baby, here we go.
You love it. The 1 gets around. The 5 gets around. Big choke for first place.
The 10th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series sees drivers head over to Twin Ring Motegi. This is a track created by Honda to test out their American open wheel capabilities, and it's one of the few tracks in the world where you've got a completely separate oval and road course. Today, drivers will be taking on this tricky, technical, challenging racetrack here for the 10th round of the championship. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Will Winston, Aaron Likens, Jake Cameron and Daniel Benefield here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live as we get set to go racing very soon. And guys, great to be with you. And Jake, we're looking forward to an absolutely outstanding race here today.
I've missed it, Will. I've missed this series over that summer break we've had. It's not been the same every Saturday getting ready to race or watch this race, sorry. But wow, what a treat we're in store for today. Enzo Benito taking that pole position. Incredible lap time by him and a good start to the second half of the season for him, and that's what he's going to need if he wants to challenge for a top 5 in the championship series. But another poor performance by Hugo Luis, Will.
Let's have a look through your starting grid for this race, and it is going to be Enzo Benito starting on pole position in that number 17 Team Redline car. Martin Kroenke starting alongside him, and Aaron, good qualifying there by Martin Kroenke in that second place, the highest of the 3ID Motorsport drivers.
Yeah, very good run. We didn't really, in our qualifying show, we talked about Benito, we talked about Sturos, we talked about Hutu, but Kroenke starting second. Let's not count him out. Incredible lap, 1800s faster than third place. So Benito and Kroenke have essentially the biggest gap between anybody else in the field. But Kroenke, if he can get a good start, he might be able to put down some laps and move away from the field. That's going to be key to see who can break out and use the clean air to their advantage.
Jake Sturgis and the inside of row number 2. Gregor Hutu, of course, the 3-time champion, on the outside of the second row of the grid. Then it is Mogar Philo and Yuhu Abe in row number 3. Alex Simpson and Hugo Louise in row number 4. And Daniel, this is exactly what Jake was talking about just one moment's time. Hugo Louise on the outside of row number 4. Going to be a very tough run from there. Some very strong competition ahead of him.
Yeah, some very strong competition considering the difference in the qualifying times between himself and Sturgis, who was third, was merely 0.02 of a second. So I think Hugo's going to need to play some amazing strategy here to get himself up the front.
And then after that, we've got ourselves, you see the rest of the grid coming up on your screen. Notable drivers like Kazuki Yamashima, of course, the hero in Canada. He's starting 13th here today. Yoni Tamada in the 17th position. Fulvio Barazzini in 18th. Paul Ilbrink, Dion Burgess, 19th and 20th. To carry on going through the field. A number of drivers making that trip here today to Twin Ring Motegi. Total of 31 of them. The rear of the field is Daniel Bida there in that number 65 car. So, plenty to go here in the last moment of practice before we get ready for the race. And we're having a look up at the drivers currently going themselves around the racetrack. And let's check in with your 3-time champion. That is Gregor Hutu. And again, starting from 4th place on the grid. And we have said this before, Jake. You started from 4th and he's still gone to victory lane.
Wherever Hutu starts, Will, he's going to go to victory lane, isn't he? He's a talent in his own world. He really is. Yeah, I can expect to see something happen from him. He's gonna have a moment of brilliance in this race, and he's gonna make a pass. I can just see it happening. He's gonna make a pass that we're not expecting, like that one earlier on in the season at Road America from Ollie Picara, or was it Alessia Usiacola?
It was one
around
of
the
those
outside of Hugo. Yeah, it was one of them two, around the outside of Hugo Luis. I reckon we're gonna see a pass like that again today, and that's gonna set the championship in stone for Gregor.
And of course, with the rounds ticking down as well, every race really does count now. Put your foot wrong, it's pretty much going to be game over. And let's not forget, Hutu's had a bad race in this season. Luis has had a number of bad races in this season. If Hutu actually does have an incident, and Daniel was talking about this a little bit early on, if he does have an incident in the early going, this championship can be blown wide open once again.
Yeah, this could be the defining race that whether Hutu has it on lockdown or if there's still life for others. And you got to think Hugo Luis, just 200ths would be the difference between 8th and 3rd. How drastically different of a picture we would be looking at with that. But for now, starting mid-pack, so Hutu, he can be a little conservative, which I don't know if that's in his nature, but starting 4th, going to be a lot smoother sailing than Hugo Luis starting 8th. Already 3 cars separated him. Hugo Luis is going to have to make something happen. He can't let this race come to him. He is going to have to make something happen today if he still wants to have a chance.
And we are getting very close now to the end of practice. Just 20 seconds remaining on the play clock. And what's that going to mean? We're going to see a lot of these drivers down on pit road once again, as they always do, to do themselves some practice starts. Not many drivers doing that as much today as we have seen previously. There you see Gregor Hutu. He was just looking to do one there, just outside of our camera shot. Andre Borch is not going to get one done for there, but the checkered flag is out, and that is going to be the end of practice. And these cars now going to head themselves down to the starting grid for this event. Who's going to win this one? Who's going to win this one? Well, we talked about that one already, but there's so much to happen here at Twin Ring Motegi. Who knows what could happen? Final thoughts before we go green, Jake?
Going to be a good one. That's all I can say, Will. It's going to be a good one, and I don't know who's going to win it. It's going to be anyone in that top 8 that is separated by merely two tenths, should we say, from the top to 8th, but from third to 8th, it's an incredible gap between them, and no one can call that. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens in that midfield.
Anything can happen in Grand Prix racing, and as of course the famous Murray Walker says, it normally does. We are getting set today to go racing here at Twin Ring Motegi. Would it be Benito's day? Would it be Cronke's day? Sturgis, all of those other drivers, we've got to think about that. Those lights are about to come on top of the iRacing.com gantry. Getting set to go racing here at Twin Ring Motegi. This race will start right now. Really good start there by Benito. Really good start there by Cronke also. So they'll come down turn one. Look at that though. Swamped around. 3 wide into that first corner. It's going to be Cronke there to the point. Sturgis falling into second, but Sturgis is challenging heavily for the race lead. Will he get the job done into turn number 3? The answer is going to be yes, he will. What a start there by Jake Sturgis from 3rd place on the grid. He now leads this race, and what a way for Jake Sturgis to get himself into contention. But you see again, Cronke looking down to his inside in turn number 4. What a start there, Aaron. Jake Sturgis to the point.
Oh, 3rd to 1st, and we mentioned he might have something up his sleeve on the start, and he showed it. Now can he use this clean air after a phenomenal start? You said he was due for a win. That might be exactly what he needed, but he still has 63.5 laps to go. But what a start.
What a start by him. Cronke falls into the 2nd position, so no net gain or loss for him before. But Enzo Benito down into that 3rd position. He's got his teammate right behind him right now, Jake, and you're going to have to think, if Benito's going slowly, that could mean that Hutu might think, actually, I want to get past you now, because he needs to stay in contact with this lead group.
Yeah, Benito, we thought his luck has changed, but obviously not so far. He seems to be going backwards more than he does going forwards off that start. He did really get swamped, though, by Sturgis and Cronke right at the start as they now come past the home straight. They'll finish their first lap of this race, and that's still 63 more laps, so for him to do something will. But Gregor Hutu seems to be caning every single corner. Benito really needs to pick his game up.
And there you see the field as they cycle through there. But it is still going to be that one guy out front. Oh, we've got a spinner there on the racetrack, and we're going to get confirmation. That is Kazuki Omishima. Let's get ourselves a replay of that one up on your screen very quickly. And that was down into turn number 1 on the racetrack. Kazuki Omishima with a bit of an issue there. Let's get a look. Go on, Jake. Walk us through it.
Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate for him. There was a bit of contact in there from what I can see.
Oli Piccardo was the driver involved. Oli Piccardo was the driver involved in that one. And Daniel, big moment there between those 2 drivers.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like Kazuki just got a little loose, and then Oli had nowhere to go but into the back of him. Omishima looks like he's got a bit of damage to the right side, front wing and side pipe by the looks of it.
So a couple of replays there up on your screen. He is going to carry on the racetrack. Now we're having a look though at Enzo Benito, currently running in that 3rd place on the racetrack, and he's sticking though with that battle of Martin Cronke, Jake Sturgis, and actually no, Jake Sturgis is still leading, but Cronke really under attack right now from Enzo Benito in that battle from 2nd position, Aaron.
Yeah, battle for 1st, battle for 2nd, battle for 3rd, and this is the type of track that it's so easy to lose a spot, so hard to gain it. For Benito right now, just sitting there waiting. Right now, you're really not going to push. You're not going to try anything over the top at this moment in time. You just want to hang there. And if they open the door, if they make a slip, that's when you're going to do it. But all the while, it seems Gregor Hutu is slowly reeling in the top 3. And Yuho Abe also hanging with it. So we got a 5-car breakaway.
5-car breakaway, and you see there your top 5 cars coming through the shot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as they work themselves through this very difficult section of the racetrack. And there is Martin Cronke, the guy who we were just talking about. Enzo Benito, however, in that 3rd position, has got himself now in a sandwich, because I think that Hutu is just now biding his time like he normally does at this stage of the race. The gap between Enzo Benito there on your shot and Gregor Hutu, the guy behind him, about 6 tenths of a second on the racetrack. But Daniel, it's that stage of the race now. These tyres have finally warmed up. We're now going to see some true speed from these drivers.
Yeah, we'll see just how low they will get in the lap times. It looks like the top 5 are quite content to keep pulling away. And more interestingly, Gregor Hutu is quite content staying behind Enzo Benito, his teammate at the moment. So it should be interesting to see what happens between the 2 red line drivers.
Let's check in a little bit further down the field and let's have a look at Hugo Luis, because he has got some big battles going on now. He's stuck in his sandwich. It's Alex Simpson ahead of him, but he's got one driver behind him. That is Antoine Hegelin. The gap between those two drivers, Alex Simpson, is in the 8th place. And these drivers are battling tooth and nail right now. But since the drop of the green flag, Hugo Luis, Jake, making up just one place on the racetrack.
Yeah, just making up one place, but already 6 seconds behind our race leader of Jake Sturgis. So he seems to be going further back than forward at the moment, and that's not really what he wants as he looks to the inside there. Not going to be able to get up the inside of Philo there. Great defending from him as they come around that turn number 5 into the tricky section of 6, 7 and 8. Very hard to pass in here where it's nearly flat out. But if anyone makes a pass through here, then they've got to have balls of steel, because it could nearly be both of your cars off the racetrack. But Hugo really need to pick up that pace again. Maybe he's worked on his pit stops, Will.
Looking on board with Yuhu Abu right now in that 5th position. You see, he's the last of those drivers kind of there in that mix, in that running racing team number 30 car, as he worked himself down this back straight. This is probably one of the fastest places you get to on the racetrack. It's downhill before you come down into this braking zone. Then you slam on the brakes, slow it down all the way to about 60 miles an hour through the centre of the corner. Then work yourself underneath the bridge. You've got the oval above you, then down into the final 2 corners, and that is going to complete the lap there for Yuhu Abe, currently running in that 5th place on the racetrack. We're getting word that potentially a couple of drivers are struggling right now. Any updates, Aaron?
Hugo Luis was able to get around Mogar Philo down the back straightaway. So for Luis now, he has been running behind Mogar. He was losing 0.7 of a second a lap. So this next lap will be telling to see what type of pace Hugo Luis has, as this will be his first lap with clean air.
So then, to run through your top 10, as it stands right now, it is Jake Sturgis leading the way from Martin Kroenke, then Enzo Benito in 3rd, Gregor Hutu runs in the 4th position, Yuhu Abe in 5th, Hugo Luis in 6th, Mogar Philo in 7th, Alex Simpson in 8th. You see a battle going on there just outside of our screen. Alex Simpson in 8th, Oli Picardo in 9th, Antoine Hegelin rounds out your top 10. With some great battles going on. I believe this is Oli Picardo and Andre Borcher that have been having a little bit of a battle earlier on in this race. I'm just trying to figure out who it was actually in that mix. I think it might have been Bootsleep and Hegelin having a bit of a fight there, Jake.
Yeah, it was Bootsaloop and Hegelin. They were all fighting for that top 10 position, but Bootsaloop sort of got loose. I think it was on turn number 3, and he then dropped back off of Hegelin. So very unfortunate for him. But looking back around the field, Will, I actually just saw Andre Botchler get very loose on that tight sections of 7 and 8, sorry. And that's allowed now Johnny Tamala to go by and Aleski Usiakola to now gain onto the back of that 3ID Motorsport racing car.
Biggest gainers and losers of the race so far? Well, it's pretty much status quo. Oli Picardo is up 3 places in the top 10. In fact, Oli Picardo, I'm just thinking, has just made a pass. We'll get confirmation of that in just one moment's time. But as it stands right now, these guys continue along on the racetrack with Sturgis leading. And a little bit surprising that Sturgis is still doing as well as he is, getting himself into that groove. But we talked about this earlier on, Daniel, that Jake Sturgis is a driver who you have to think about every single race. And he's just flying right now in that number 4 iNext racing car.
Yeah, we saw at Silverstone where Sturgis qualified a lowly 13th, and how quickly he came through the field up into the top 10 and at some stage the top 5. So he's someone that you got to count in, almost like Gregor Hutu. You always got to consider him for the win.
Having a look, some very close battles going on. Oli Picardo, you see there down on the outside. Is that Gregor Hutu there in the mix?
No, Mogar Philo, Alex Simpson, and Ali Pacala. Both of those drivers just can't seem to get around Mogar. They're doing everything they can. You have to think Mogar is on a heavier fuel load, and that means the drivers behind him want to get around him as fast as possible. But right now, no luck for Alex Simpson or Ali Pacala.
And they carry it on, and you see there Oli Picardo is trying to get himself into position, just not able to do so right now in that machine. But Oli Picardo, say, currently running in the 9th position on the racetrack. This isn't really the race that he would have wanted, Jake. Of course, he has been a victor in this series so far, but stuck behind that train. This is really hurting his chances of getting himself into the top 5.
Yeah, it is really hurting his chances. We've seen him be a victor at Road America, where his teammate Giacola came up crops to him, and Hugo Luis did in the pit lane. So he won that one on strategy, but at the moment his strategy's not seems to be working for him very well at the moment. He seems to be stuck in traffic, and if he's on that lighter fuel load, that's not what he's going to want to be doing. He's going to want to be getting out into that clean air and actually getting some pace down on the track and hopefully gaining in on that top 5. But Hugo Luis managed to get around Mogar as Alex Simpson looks there to the outside on turn number 9. That then closes them 3 up. Ollie Beccaro is right on the back of Simpson as they go into turn number 10. He'll look to the inside. Ollie up the inside, not going to be able to do it there. Simpson defending very well.
Indeed, and we just saw on your screen there as well, battle going on between Jeremy Boutaloop, Yoni Tamala, and Andre Borcher for P 11, 12, and 13 on the racetrack. Beccalo's going to have another look. Is he going to get the job done this time by? The answer is going to be no on that one. So that's not going to work really for Ollie Beccaro. And this is what you were talking about earlier, Daniel. Passing can be very, very difficult here.
Yeah, with so little passing opportunities, particularly if you got someone like a heavy fuel load like Morgan Filo is, it's going to be very difficult to pass. We obviously saw, off our cameras, Hugo Luis pass Morgan Filo as Alex Simpson has a look on Morgan Filo going into turn 3. Again, it's very sideways coming out of turn 4. And now Ollie Beccaro's having a look, and he's on the inside of Alex Simpson. Simpson breaks later. They're side by side. Oh, they got very close there. They're still side by side coming out of turn 5 through turn 6 now. They're still side by side. I think Simpson is going to hold it on the outside. What a move by Ollie Beccaro.
Wow.
To turn 7.
Beccaro just about gets it there. What a crazy, crazy couple of corners we have. We're going to have to get a replay up on that one because, Jake, that was just absolutely spellbinding.
That's what I mentioned earlier, Will. I said you've got to have balls of steel, and that's one person that has got them is Ollie Beccaro. He'll happily go around the outside of anyone. What an incredible move. That was just like Road America. Held it on that outside line, managed to make it stick, and if any point in that he hesitated and backed out, that would have been both their races over. Just like a couple of other guys, Paul Ilbrink and Fabio Berrezzini, took an early exit of their coming together. So very unfortunate for them, but really great move from Ollie Beccaro.
Getting a replay from both of these drivers, both Alex Simpson. There's that wiggle to start off this sequence of movement in that Apex Racing car. You'll see now Ollie Beccaro will come up on the right-hand side of your screen as they come down into this corner. Simpson has to take the outside line, almost making a little bit of contact there. They will stay side by side through this corner. Here, look how close to the middle of the racetrack Simpson was. They stay side by side. Simpson would normally have the advantage into this corner, but Beccaro breaks later, and that is how Beccaro got the job done. That clearly has got to be one of the contenders, one of the overtaking maneuvers of the entire season, Jake.
Yeah, it has. It's in there for that one at Road America as well by Anuski Giacola around the outside. It's in there. It is definitely in there for the pass of the season, and I'm sure we'll have a vote on that at the end of the season, Will, what have been the best moments so far. But looking back to the top 3 in this one, Sturgis still leads out in front, but Kroenke seems to be closing in every single lap.
He does, and we are just having a look at this battle that continues between Jeremy Boutaloop and Yorni Tamala. And Tamala just has not been able to get himself past Boutaloop. He has a slight half look down to the inside there as they work themselves down into the hairpin. Wasn't able to get the job done. And the gap between these two drivers right now, it remains at about 5 tenths of a second on the racetrack. Can Tamala get the turn to this corner? The answer is going to be no. So Lay stays side line of stern for the time being. Let's check in now with your race leader. That is Jake Sturgis, because he has still been leading the way ever since the drop of the green flag. And let's not forget, he had to go 3 wide to make that pass on the opening lap of the race, opening corner of the race. And what an amazing start to the race it was for your race leader, Jake Sturgis. Aaron.
Yeah, incredible start, and right now he is just a little bit faster. He gained just a little bit on Kroenke. We're talking about 14 thousandths of a second, so they're mirroring each other's pace. But for Sturgis right now, exactly where he wants to be, up front, clean air. We've seen, well, I was about to say we've seen passing be difficult. We just saw an incredible pass, but really, that's what it's going to take to overtake here. So as long as Sturgis can get in and out of the pits and keep these lap times good, it is going to be a daunting task to get around him. It's going to take something, well, we saw amazing. It's going to take that to get around him.
As it stands right now, then, it is still Sturgis leading from Kroenke, from Benito, from Hutu, from Abe, Louise, Filo, Picala, Simpson, and Hegelin. They round out your top 10. Let's talk very quickly, actually, about Yuhu Abe, because he has done a great start to this race. Once again, those running racing cars, they've had a number of good finishes in this series, but both drivers have been a little bit inconsistent at times, both Yuhu Abe, and let's not forget as well, and this was, of course, under immense pressure, Kazuki Yamashima, that Wall of Champions moment, was just free to go at Montreal.
Yeah, it really has, Will.
I mean, particularly also, you got to remember Rocco Baboni's part of this team as well. Will, he's qualified down 16th and is currently running 13th in this race, but he qualified 5th and was running in the top 5 for pretty much the whole race at Silverstone, as well as a podium.
Well, we just had contact, but we just had contact between Mogar Filo and Ali Picala in turn 1. Ali Picala made the pass. Lucky that both drivers are still in the race, and then Alex Simpson may have got into the back of Mogar, so could have some wing issues there. That really close battle got a little too close, but all cars still running.
Yep, got a replay of that one up on your screen. This is Mogar Filo there in that green Radical Steel Series car, and the Datalatara Glacier Racing car of Oli Picard. This is coming down into that first corner, and there you see the contact there with Oli Picard. Just a slight bit of contact. Picard goes around the outside of him through the exit of that corner, and then you see the charge by Alex Simpson down into corner number 2, and Simpson wasn't able to get the cut on him. In fact, almost that secondary contact there, Jake, between Simpson and Mogar Filo.
Yeah, nearly a secondary contact. I was surprised that was not a bigger incident than what it was, but it doesn't seem to have halted any of their chances. Picard seems to still be running the same pace as he was before, so I can't see any damage on that Glacier Racing car either. I'm looking all over it and I can't see anything, and Filo seems to have a little bit of wing damage, and that's it, but I'm sure that won't hold them back, and they'll just get that fixed in the pit stop.
Simpson makes the pass in between out of turn 1, a very good pass there, so move Simpson up to PA. It took him about 7 laps, I think, but he finally gets the job done.
Yeah, and that was going to be 7 laps, potentially too long for Alex Simpson, because he really has been waiting to get this job done for a very long time. Getting the replay on board of him as they come down into turn number 1, just able to slot it down the inside on the exit of the corner there. Bold move, and a number of drivers really have struggled getting that car to work for them through that first corner of the racetrack here today. And Daniel, that's one of those things you were talking about, the cold tyres here. Some drivers still struggling for grip to get one more look at Simpson getting past Mogar Filo.
Yeah, the low temperature is really going to play into effect, particularly around the pit stops. I mean, it's going to be really hard to get these tyres up to temperature. It's very cold on the track today.
So then we continue along now, and Martin Kroenke still scored in that second place on the racetrack. He's kind of in that sandwich still. The guy who started on pole position, for those of you just joining us, Enzo Benito, got swamped 3 wide. He got bogged down at the start, but actually we'll get ourselves a replay of that start in a little bit later on, Jake. But it did look as though Benito got a good launch off the line. I'm not sure if he missed a gear or something. We'll have to find out about that one after the race, because he was just swamped by Jake Sturgis on the outside, and then Martin Kroenke on the inside. Kroenke took that lead into turn number 1, and then Sturgis just went for it in turn 2.
That could be the difference between the second gear ratios these drivers are running with. Maybe Sturgis and Kroenke have a higher second gear, which has given them more pull, and they've designed it for that start, other than Benito, who has designed it for the race. But it's really something that is interesting to see the way the drivers start, because some of them bog down and some of them actually do make incredible starts off the clutch, and it would be interesting to see one day how they actually do manage to get their starts so nailed, whether they perfect them every week. We see them line up and they wait at the end of pit lane to do a practice start, and you never really see them make a mistake off the start like some series you see on iRacing.
Martin Kroenke right now about 0.8 of a second behind your race leader. Guy behind him, Enzo Benito, still runs in third. He's a further 0.6 of a second back. Still doing a good job though in that third place, ahead of his teammate right now, Aaron, who's running in fourth. That is of course Gregor Hutu.
Indeed. Well, I've been watching, though. Well, Hugo Luis just laid down a 124.6 gain, 0.6 of a second on our race leader. We said Hugo Luis had to do something special to get up there, and right now he is making a charge. So keep an eye on that. I think Hugo Luis is the fastest car on the racetrack.
Do you know what makes this what makes that time even more amazing, Aaron? Is that the fact that out of the last corner, Hugo Luis had a massive snap. Massive snap coming onto the front straight.
I thought his race was just about to be over, so that was probably 2-3 tenths. So, yeah, that was a very big moment for Hugo Luis, which just shows how much he is on it right now, and he's got to be.
But one of the things we have seen in this series, though, just because you're fast doesn't mean that necessarily the race is going to work out for you, Jake. We have seen if you're fast in the early going, there is a slight chance, actually, you could be lighter on fuel, and for Hugo Luis, that would be a disaster.
Yeah, we saw it at Watkins Glen. Well, I think it was Cronke who led the whole start of the race up until the pit stops, and he had that lighter fuel tank. He went for the 2-stop strategy, and it didn't work out for him because he didn't have enough fuel to make it to the end as the rest of the guys. And you know, that's when it does take an effect, when drivers try and make that 2-stop strategy, and the fuel load is a lot different on these cars, especially some of the guys like Mogarfilo. He's got to be running a heavier fuel load than the rest of the guys.
Just getting ourselves a replay of Andre Hegelin and Antoine Hegelin and Jordi Tamala. They almost went free wide into that corner. Jordi Tamala able to get the pass there made over Antoine Hegelin down into the hairpin. Good pass there, Aaron, by Antoine Hegelin over Jordi Tamala.
Yeah, anytime you get a pass at this track right now, it seems like you are doing something really good. So on the move, and I think he might have just picked off. No, that was Andre Bocher going around. So right now, Hegelin seems to, they've got quite the battle going on.
And there you see one more replay of that. Hegelin down on the inside. You see almost Hegelin got bumped there by Andre Bocher. It didn't happen for him, however, losing a position on the racetrack for the time being. Jake Sturgis continues to lead this one, though, with 15 laps of this race scored complete. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to step aside for just one moment for a quick break, and we will be right back with continuing coverage of this, the 10th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series here from Twin and Motegi. We will be right back. So then, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to continuing coverage of this, the 10th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series here from Twin Ring Motegi. It is still Jake Sturgis, the leader. We've been keeping an eye during this quick commercial break with Alexei Isiakola, Isaac Price and Marty Piatella. They've been running very close together on the racetrack so far. Interesting to see these guys continue along. To give you an update, by the way, on some of the retirements, Fabio Di Carmo, Fulvio Barazini, Paul Ilbrink, Arisaki, Friscops, De Corps and Omishima all classified as out of the race, Jake.
Yeah, they are all out of this one, unfortunately. I don't know what happened to Friscops and Ozaki, but Ilbrink and Barazini came together on the earlier laps. I think that was on lap number 6, quote me if I'm wrong, but they came together and I think it was Barazini just drove straight into the back of Ilbrink and that ended their race. So very unfortunate for them guys, but I'm sure they'll bounce back in 2 weeks' time.
Looks like we're going to add 2 more drivers to the list out. Kazuki Uwashima and Davey Decor just had contact coming underneath the oval, so it looks like both of their races could be done.
So far we've got 24 cars still scored on the lead lap, 24 cars still remaining in this race. The last one of them, well, that is this guy right here, Daniel Bieder. Would like to welcome him to the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series in at that number 65 car. One of the drivers running from the Pro Series up into the big league, the World Championship Series, Jake, and it's always great to see drivers make that transition.
Yeah, it's always great to see them make the transition. That's our second driver we've seen make that transition this year now. We saw Mac Backham earlier on in the season at Montreal make his debut, but we remember a couple of weeks before that though, at Watkins Glen, he put in an incredible time and he was actually 3rd top qualifier out of everyone, but he was unfortunate and he wasn't able to make the grid due to numbers of cars that were registered. So very unfortunate for him, but it's, yeah, as you say, well, it's nice to see new drivers coming in. Even though he's running at the back, it's all good experience for him.
Let's get a little bit of a look at Hugo Louise then for the time being, and he's currently scored in that 6th place on the racetrack. Made up 2 places since the start of this one, but not really the kind of progress we really would have wanted. Now, fastest lap of the race, that is a 124.258. Last time by, just about a 1/10 of a second slower than that. And you were talking about his speed earlier on, Daniel. He has some good speed, but at the same time, he's still about 5 seconds off the race lead right now.
Yeah, since he cleared the heavier fueled Morgafilo earlier in the race, Hugo Louise has been slowly chipping away at the top 5, sort of joining on the back of the train. So I'm wondering if he's starting to run a little lighter on fuel, and I wonder even if he's gone extreme with strategy and gone for the 2-stop.
Well, we have seen every driver so far who has tried to make this 2-stop strategy work, Jake. It hasn't worked for them at all. So Hugo Louise, yes, he's going to be bold, but that might be just one thing a little bit too bold for him.
Yeah, we've not seen a 2-stop strategy work this season yet. It's all been that 1-stop strategy. But, well, Hugo Louise, we know about his pit stops, and we know they're not the best. But I really don't think that Hugo's going to take a 2-stop strategy and maybe risk losing 4 seconds in the pit stop if he has a terrible pit, like he has done most of the first half of the season.
And I'd actually talked to Hugo Louise during this off-season, and he has been practicing pit stops like no tomorrow. Let's not forget, though, at Canada, when he had the chance to win this race, it wasn't his pit stop. His pit stop was actually great that time, by he showed me a replay of it afterwards. He was just unfortunate in his circumstances. Hutu's had some bad luck. He got that out of the way before the middle part of the season. And the guy we're looking at on your screen right now, that number 1 Team Red Line driver, this is that stage of the season that he has just been dominant, year in, year out, Aaron.
And what better word can you use than dominant? And you mentioned luck. Luck is something that's going to come in cycles. You're going to get good luck, you're going to get bad luck. It's what you do with the luck you're given that really is the difference. And Grega Hutu had an issue earlier in the season, but he was able to, not let that get to him. Came back and has been dominant ever since. So luck is a cycle. You're going to have good, you're going to have bad. It's doing good with the bad and doing great with the good that really is the separator.
And they continue. They are getting closer and closer to halfway distance right now. Working ourselves on lap number 21 of 64. And to run you through your top 10. It is still Sturgis leading with a 7/10 of a second advantage right now over Enzo Benito. Gregor Hooter runs in 4th, Yuhu Abe in 5th, Hugo Louise in 6th, Ollie Picard in 7th. Then we've got ourselves Alex Simpson in 8th, Yoni Tamada in 9th, and then Andre Borcher rounds out your top 10. And this is that stage we were talking about earlier on, Daniel. Now it seems to be people are really struggling to overtake. We talked about the track conditions earlier. That wind condition, northeasterly 4 miles an hour, really has made life tough for drivers to line up and make a pass. We have seen a couple down to the hairpin, like I mentioned. And of course, we had that amazing sneak into the corners between Bacala and Alex Simpson. Apart from that, overtaking has been a little bit light on the ground here today.
Yeah, I think the reason for that is that because of the wind direction, there's no certain strong headwind down any of the big straights, which means that drivers can't use their slipstream as much. So I'm starting to wonder if that's part of the reason why we haven't seen that many overtakes, is that the headwind, there is a headwind, just not down any of the major straights.
On board with Rico Alatalo, he's trying to get himself past Mogar Filo, of course. Alatalo running himself in the 12th position right now in that Dattila Katara Glacier racing car. Then you've got Mogar Filo just ahead of him on the racetrack. And this actually the point was where people's been able to pass him earlier. Filo really has been struggling through turn number 1 today, Aaron.
Yes, he has. Struggling through one, not the place you really want to struggle, one of the passing zones. And if you are struggling through there, the run into what is turn 3 can, you're just going to be open to attack. So turn 1, not where you want to struggle here. There's some turns you can struggle here and get away with it, but turn 1 is not one of them. Meanwhile, Jake Sturgis just ran a previous lap of 1:24.035. I think that's his fastest lap of the race, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was. A 1:24.035 is classified as his fastest lap of the race so far. And actually one of the fastest laps we've seen in this race so far. So there's a rather interesting statistic there for you. On board now with Mogar Filo in that battle with Rico Alatalo. Seems to be that whilst Filo struggles at the south end of the racetrack and the north end of the racetrack, it's actually Alatalo who struggles a little bit more. And that second passing zone, Jake, Alatalo's just not been able to make the move at all. But, Alatalo coming onto pit road there.
Wow, yeah, he's not been able to, well, as you say. Sorry there to interrupt you, Aaron. That was a bit of a strange pit entrance. I thought you were about to say, same as me.
Yeah, I was like watching him. I thought that he was taking a ride towards the wall. That was just shot off the racetrack.
We did hear from Nim Cross earlier on as well. They said, do not cut the pit road. You cut that and you will be getting a penalty. Drivers will have to be very careful on their entrance to pit road as well.
So Alatalo makes a 9.5 second pit stop, now coming out of pit road, back out onto the racetrack. And here he goes. 2-stop strategy there potentially for Alatalo. So he's going to be one of these drivers trying the alternate strategy. And as I said, Jake, it's not worked for people so far this season. Potentially it could work for Alatalo. And it's now that time of the season that people are going to try bold thing, especially if you're trying to stay within that top 25, as Rico Alatalo is right now in that number 50 Glacier racing car.
Yeah, they have to stay within that top 25 to keep that Pro World Championship license. Next season, we could see a lot of shake-ups, Will, because there's a lot of names that not in that top 25 in the championship at the moment. There's a lot of drivers you'd expect to see in there, but they've been pushed out by the newcomers this season. But he's taken that 2-stop strategy, and I don't think it's going to work for him, Will. I don't think it's going to work. Nothing this season seems to work when anyone goes for a 2-stop. They seem to just end up going back and back and back until they get right to the end of the field and they can't go no further. So whether he can prove us wrong, then good on him if he can. But I don't think it's going to work.
Alex Simpson, another driver there making a pit stop, and a 10.6 second pit stop there for Alex Simpson. Now he's second and a bit longer there on his pit stop than Rico Alatalo. He now comes out of pit road and back out onto the racetrack. And that length of pit stop, I'm almost thinking he might consider trying to one-stop it from here, trying to get it as late as he can on that 2-stop window, to then convert it into a one-stop race there, Daniel.
Yeah, definitely. Also, how Abe was also in that lap. I'm not sure if you saw that, but he was in. Alex Simpson could make it to the end as Benito and Concrete and Benito and Sturgis are all
Wow.
in the pits.
Everyone's coming in, so everyone is on a two-stopper by the look of it then.
Who stays out?
Who will stay out? So let's see. This could be a pivotal moment of the race. But here comes Sturgis onto pit road, leading that gaggle of cars onto pit road. And he's into his pit box. A nice entry for him. A little bit of a bobble, though, for Martin Cronkite in that second place. Enzo Benito all pitting there. And I believe that we've got Hugo Louise on pit road as well. And it's going to be Martin Cronkite who's going to come out there ahead of Jake Sturgis. So Cronkite will beat Sturgis out of pit road there. And what an overtaking maneuver on pit stops there for Martin Cronkite. Aaron, big moment of the race.
Big moment. I can't believe that, because that previous lap, Kroenke got held up by 2 lap cars, lost about half a second, and even still, he was able to get around Sturgis. What a stop.
So this is Cronkite then, and this is him coming out of pit road, and here he comes back out onto the racetrack. Very, very close there with Jake Sturgis. Puts the power down, gets himself out into the race lead. Big moment of this race. Cronkite trying to win his first one of the season, Jake.
Yeah, trying to win his first race of the season. We've seen him have a real good season. Sitting third in the championship at the moment.
And Jake Sturgis is about 7/10 of a second behind him on the racetrack right now. We'll have to keep our eye out, though, for Gregor Hutu, your race leader. Will he come into pit road this time by? Well, the answer to that one is going to be very clearly quite not, because you see he's working himself on the front end of the racetrack. That is turn number 1 he's completed, working himself down into turn number 2 right now, Aaron. And Hutu 2 laps longer. This really could give him the race lead and then potentially a bit of a margin.
He just ran a 23.950. That's a 1 minute 23.95. But an incredible lap time, and this probably his strategy all along. Run a little bit longer, wait for the cars in front of him to pit, and then tick off some blistering fast qualifying laps. That's the mode he is in right now, and if he wants to win this race, these are the laps that will do it.
Just to go back to a previous incident, and Jeremy Bootslip, he had a bit of an issue earlier on, Daniel, in this race. He got himself a bit of contact, and now he is all the way down in the 20th spot on the racetrack behind his teammate Jonas Nakurian.
Yeah, earlier in the race, I believe it was Joni Tamala tried diving down the inside of the turn 10, outbrake himself, and actually flipped Jeremy Bootslip over. He's actually lucky that he's still going in this race with the front ring damage he has on the car. I'm not sure if they're going to try and repair it at the stop, they will. Also, Gregor Hutu just stayed out and he's completing another lap. This lap he completes a 23.675 from Gregor Hutu.
What a lap for Hutu. There you see, by the way, on your screen, the wing damage. You can see it there for Jeremy Bootslip, which is why he is struggling on the racetrack. Just to let you know, by the way, we have got a big thunderstorm over here in the UK, so if we do cut out, we do apologise in advance. But your race leader is Gregor Hutu, and he's got a 26.9 second advantage right now over Martin Cronkite in that number 5 car as he comes underneath the oval, down into the sweeping section of the racetrack. Got a little bit of traffic ahead of him. That's not really going to hold him up too much on this lap, but he's actually got a lot of traffic ahead of him he's going to have to deal with in the next 2 to 3 laps, Aaron. That might really play into his mind whether he comes into pit road now or whether he'll come to pit road in the next couple of laps or so, because blue flag rules do apply in this series. At the same time, however, you still get held up in that dirty air.
Oh, dirty air, and with that many cars, with 6 cars, I count 6 cars in front of him, with that many cars, you are going to catch somebody in the wrong spot, and he can't afford to lose a half second. So let's see, he'll either pit this time or next time, I'm thinking. Let's see if he comes in.
He's in.
Yes, he does.
He's
yes,
in.
He does. So this is the telling moment. Where will he come out? He's put down 2 amazing laps.
So here is Gregor Hutu then. Pit road speed is about 37 miles an hour. It's 60 kilometers as they drive themselves this very long pit road into his pit box. 4 fresh tyres now for Gregor Hutu, and he's going to top up with race fuel as well. Everyone looking as though they're on a 2-stop strategy quite clearly, all pitting before the half race distance. 8.2 seconds on the jack. Gregor Hutu is out and away, but that is a shorter stop than the guys around him. Where is Martin Cronkite? Well, it looks as though that Cronkite is about 2.8 seconds back on the racetrack, and Hutu has leapfrogged all of those drivers. There is Gregor Hutu, And there is Martin Kroenke in the background. So Hutu has been able to jump up 3 positions in this first round of pit stops. But Jake, one thing I noticed, he was shorter on the jacks there than everyone else. That could swing around a little bit later on.
Yeah, it can swing around, Will, but we've mentioned it earlier on this season as well. That is Gregor Hutu pit stop dominance. Absolute dominance from Gregor in the pits again. He does never miss a braking point onto that pit road, and he will always be the first off, quick as can be. He takes that pit limiter off as soon as he hits that white line, and wow, that was an incredible pit stop. At only 8 seconds though, as you say, so whether he's not taken the same amount of fuel as the rest of the guys, because they were 2 seconds longer in the pits, so whether he's got that shorter stint now coming and he'll have to pit earlier, and whether that worked for him is something we're about to find out.
Big movers up in the top 10. Rocco Baroni's up 7 positions. Outside the top 10, Paolo Muglia's up 10 spots. You've got 16th place driver Ricky Alatalo up 11 positions so far. The biggest loser, well, that is the driver who's in the number 25th position so far. Classified now as being out of the race, but that's Kazuki Omishima even. Kazuki Omishima, the biggest loser in this race so far, as we're now completing lap number 29 of 64 here at Twin Ring Motegi. And it is now Gregor Hutu, the 3-time champion, once again classified as your race leader here. And Daniel, you kind of called it there, the fact that once he went 2 laps longer, he was setting some blistering lap times. His fastest one down to the 1 minute 23s.
As usual, Gregor Hutu works his magic in the pit stop, stays out longer, and jumps everyone. Another person that I am actually looking out for in the pit stops is actually Morgan Filo, because I reckon he's on the one-stop strategy. We knew earlier in the race that he was quite heavily fueled and dropped down the order. He's now back up to 7th, and if everyone has to make one more stop, Morgan is really in position for a good finish.
Yeah, and actually we'll get a look at Mo Garfilo right now, because he is classified for the time being in that 7th place on the racetrack. And Mo Garfilo, he is, just having a look, he's only about 16 seconds behind the race leader. So if he is on a one-stop strategy, everyone is going to have to pit one more time. He will be about 5 seconds longer on fuel, and also, let's not forget, he'll be running a little bit slower lap times. But he's got a good chance of getting himself a top 10 finish out of this one, Aaron.
Indeed, top 10, and what was really important for him earlier was, and he wasn't driving defensive, he was holding his line, but a lot of drivers had a very difficult time getting around him. And when you have the one-stop strategy, that's what you're looking for, because the longer they stay behind you, once they get in front of you, they're just going to drive away. So it's looking good for Mogar right now to put down a solid top 10 finish.
Things for the time being seem to have settled down. No real battles going on the racetrack. We saw you do one a moment ago with Ender Benito and Jake Sturgill. So there is one other battle going on outside of the top 20. That is between Lee Thompson and Marty Piatella. And in fact, you've got Jeremy Bootloop there in that mix as well. We're going to have a look at the guy in the middle of that. That is Lee Simpson there in the Apex Racing UK car, trying to close down the wounded Jeremy Bootloop. And of course, Thompson's been stuck behind Bootloop for a number of laps now. Bootloop just about able to keep that car going, despite that suspension and front wing damage, Jake. Thompson just not got an answer for him right now. He's got Piatella right behind him as well.
Yeah, Jeremy Bootaloop in that Radical Steel Series racing car definitely struggling after he's got that damage, but he's holding up Lee Thompson and also Marty Piatella, and I'm sure they're going to be desperate to get around him as soon as possible. But Marty Piatella and this Lee Thompson battle has been going on for quite a fair few laps now, Will, and it's been very entertaining to watch, because Patilla's been sometimes up the inside into turn number 1, and then Thompson will cut the O's off as he goes up the inside there. Not going to be able to make it. Is he going to be able to hold it stick on the outside?
No.
No, he's not. Bootaloop holds it there. He got a little loose on the exit though, but that's a good defensive line. Bootaloop will hold that inside again. Piatella runs wide as he... It's all happening here, Will. It's all happening here, but I can see a wreck coming on in a minute if Bootaloop keeps that car on track.
And that Leo Bodnar Apex Racing car of Lee Thompson is desperate to get past Bootaloop. He's going to have a little look down to the inside there. Not going to be close enough, however, to affect a pass as they work themselves down the back straightaway again. However, Thompson does get a very good run this time out of the back straightaway. He's literally just a couple of tenths of a second back, not quite close enough to lunge it down the inside. down into that 90-degree right-hand. He should come back underneath the oval section.
Patella behind them spins it out of the back straightaway, so Patella just spun it around.
Let's get ourselves a replay of that one then for Marty Piatella and see what happened to him. And this is Marty Piatella. So they're coming now down onto the back straightaway. So this section of the racetrack, it's that 90-degree right hand at the end of it. You break yourself downhill. It can be very difficult for these drivers. Let's see what happens to Marty Piatella as he comes down into this corner. He just runs very wide, then catches that white line when he tries to turn that car, Daniel. You always know it's sometimes faster to just go off and then bring the car back on and try and turn a car when you know there's no chance of making the corner.
Yeah, I mean, Marty was very, very unlucky there. Looked like he outbraked himself quite a bit there, actually. So he was lucky just to get away with the spin, and hopefully he'll be able to rejoin this battle between Beaterleap and Thompson.
But out front, Hutu now leads by 1.3 seconds over Martin Kroenke. Sturgis is 4.3 seconds behind your race leader. Then you've got Enzo Benito, who is a further 6 tenths of a second further back right now. And then you've got Hugo Luis in 5th, Hugo Abe in 6th, Mogarfilo in 7th. He's not pitted. Antoine Heglin, Rocco Baroni, and Oli Picardo, they round out your top 10. I don't think that Rocco Baroni's pitted either so far, Aaron.
I don't think he has, and there's 5 seconds between him and Mogar, so those would be our 2 cars not pitted. So a lot of race left to see how that one-stop strategy will play out and whether or not both of them can score a top 10 with that strategy.
And Jake Sturgis continues his battle with Enzo Benito. But Hutu, I'm just having a look at their previous lap times. He was a tenth of a second slower than Martin Kroenke. About a little bit faster than Jake Sturgis, a tenth of a second faster than Sturgis. Kroenke is closing in on Gregor Hutu at this stage of the race. And I think it'll be interesting to see in about 5 laps time, as we are now just past halfway distance here in the 10th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. It'll be interesting to see whether or not Kroenke can catch up to the rear of Gregor Hutu, and if it's actually going to be the other drivers now going a little bit longer than Gregor Hutu in this second stint, Daniel.
It's interesting because, as we do know, Gregor was 2 seconds faster in the box. So it's interesting to see that Martin Kroenke is catching Hutu at roughly a tenth of the lap over the last few laps it's been. So this battle could heat up for the lead.
Checking in with Isaac Price right now in that number 36 Inex Racing car, who's trying to close down to Alex Simpson, but got himself a little bit looser out of corner number 2. That's dropped him back a couple of car lengths in what is a 3-car battle, starting with Oli Picardo, then Alex Simpson, and then Isaac Price, who's running in that 12th spot on the racetrack right now. Some brilliant driving between these 3 drivers right now, Jake.
Yeah, some great drives going on all throughout this field, to be honest, Will. You can't just single out a couple of drivers. But Isaac Price, definitely one that's had a good start to the season. He had an odd down race, but he had a really good finish at Virginia as well, where he came in second. He led his first ever laps in a WCS race and also got his first ever WCS podium, which always gives a driver a big boost of confidence. But he's going to be hoping to get by Alex Simpson and get into that top 10 after a very poor qualifying from Isaac Price. We don't normally see him so far down the field. He started at P14 and he's now up into P12. So that's a nice move with 2 cars throughout the first half of the race, but he needs to do that a little more and push a little harder if he wants to get into that top 10.
Gap is a lot closer though as they work themselves back down into turn number 1 once again. Will Price make a move? No, but he is mighty close to the rear of Alex Simpson. Gets a better run out of corner number 1 as well as they work themselves back down towards turn number 2, and Price just isn't close enough to make that pass. Very close racing between these 2 drivers, however. The battle, and whilst this is going on, actually what he's doing is he's allowing Oli Picardo to dance off into the sunset a little bit, Aaron.
Yep, he's looking in his mirror and he's thinking, come on you 2, just keep fighting, keep battling, put on a good show and just let me drive away. That's what's going on. And Alex Simpson, it seems he's been in a battle most of this race. When this race is over, he is going to be mentally drained because every time we look at him, he is either trying to get around somebody or somebody's trying to get around him. The entire race, he's been in the midst of a battle.
34 laps of 64 going to be complete this time by your race leader Gregor Hutu. Is still going along, but we're still trying to figure out when this guy Mogarfilo is going to pit in that number 10 car, because He's now gone past a half-race distance, so you're going to say, Jake, that he clearly is on a one-stop strategy, going 35 laps into this event, but he's kind of on pace now to make that one more pit stop and have an interesting run to the end.
Yeah, he's chosen that one-stop strategy, and it seems very interesting for Mogard because he always thinks outside the box. Watkins Glen, he did a two-stop, and a couple other tracks this season as well. He has done a two-stop strategy where all the other drivers do take a one. So he's not afraid to try something new, and if it doesn't work, he'll think about something else and he'll try that. And I think this strategy could actually work well, and he could actually find himself on a podium, as he's 17 seconds behind Gregor Hutu at the moment, but Hutu still has to pit, and Mogart only needs to one more pit stop, and he can gain in a lot of time.
But realistically, at the same time, Aaron, he's probably only going to get himself about a P7, maybe a P6, because everyone else has got to make another stop. Mogar Filo's stop, depending when he comes in, it's actually going to be longer than the second stop the drivers ahead of him are going to make, because of the fact that they've already got fuel to get himself, I'd say, to about lap 45, maybe lap 50. He's going to have to pit, I'd say, by the end of lap 40, and that's going to essentially mean that he's going to spend more time on pit road, then have a more sluggish car, and he stays out another lap there as he starts his 36th tour around the racetrack. But for Filo, I don't think this is going to work out for him as much as he would have wanted.
No, and where he started on the grid, he started 5th. I could see trying the one-stopper if you were a little bit further behind, but starting 5th, now running 7th, it was a big gamble, and starting that far forward, right now it's a net loss of 2, and I think in the end it will be a net loss from where he started.
So then, lap number 36 is being worked on right now. And for Gregor Hutu, we carry on coming back to him, Daniel, but again, he's shown how he can also think outside the box, get himself to the race lead, and today he's done it by really playing the same strategy as everyone else, but just going a little bit longer, knowing he's going to be in traffic at the early going, knowing the fact he'd have Benito ahead of him, who's probably going to come on pit road a couple of laps early and dance away from him a little bit, knowing the fact he'd have Kroenke and Sturgis, he wouldn't be able to pass naturally very easily on the racetrack. Went a little bit longer, it panned out for him, but he's still got only a 1.4 second lead to Martin Kroenke. It's carrying on, and this one is going to go down to the last 10 laps, I think.
Yeah, I think it is, because it's been sort of ebb and flow. Kroenke was starting to catch Hutu, and then Hutu pulled away from Kroenke, and then last lap they were dead equal on lap, virtually dead equal on lap time. So it's literally a high-speed game of chess between Hutu and Kroenke right now, two long-time campaigners of the series.
And Will, quick question: we saw Kroenke get an amazing pit stop, which he had lost time coming in. Could Kroenke and Hutu, well, could Sturgis maybe put in a little bit more fuel to go a little bit longer on this stint?
Well, I'm actually just having a look at the pit stop times there. It was a 9.4 second pit stop there for Jake Sturgis. I think that's the second longest one we saw after Alex Simpson. I actually think all these drivers are going to come onto pit road about the same time for each other. Now, the issue with Jake Sturgis is he's fallen back really in this stint. He's now 4.6 seconds behind the race leader. He's also dropped back about 3 seconds over Martin Kroenke. Now, we know he had good speed, but he was leading out front. I think his car is just not as tuned to work in dirty air. We've seen this before by some of the INX Racing drivers. I'm a little bit confused by Jake Sturgis. I think he could still be a dark horse, but as we saw with Hutu, Aaron, he's got to go at least 3 more laps in order to make it work for him.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if maybe he did put in a little bit more fuel to go just a little bit longer, and maybe Kroenke did maybe just a little bit less to try to leapfrog him and get into that clean air. Because Sturgis at the start of the stint was right behind Kroenke, and maybe it was the dirty air, but that lead ballooned to about 4 seconds, and now Sturgis is slowly starting to reel the front 2 back in. We'll find out, I guess, in about 10-15 laps on how this plays out, but I'm expecting Sturgis to maybe be like Hutu and stay out 2 or 3 more laps beyond what Hutu and Kroenke are going to do.
Let's have a look again at Isaac Price and this continuing battle with fellow countryman Alex Simpson. They're battling for 11th place on the racetrack. What I was saying a little bit earlier on is how, while these two are battling, Ollie Picardo was able to get away a little bit. That gap now between Ollie Picardo and Alex Simpson is 2.3 seconds on the racetrack. and it is continuing to grow lap on lap. Isaac Price just hasn't been able to get past Simpson, but it's one of these things, Daniel. You go from running a neutral line where you just know to hit your mark. Sometimes you've got to attack. You've got to be a little bit deep into a corner to put pressure on drivers. In some circumstances, you've got to defend. When you defend, you see a bit of a puff of smoke there from Isaac Price, who works himself through the S-curve, which drops him back a couple of car lengths. But when you are defending, you try, and brake a little bit earlier. You got to try and get onto the power a little bit earlier, so you protect the corner. That costs you time on the racetrack.
Yeah, it does, and it's sort of the other way as well with Isaac Price attacking right now. He'll be losing time braking later, but they're not getting as good a run off the corners as he should be. But don't forget, Isaac Price will also be affected by the dirty air coming off the back of Alex Simpson's car, which probably isn't helping him that much in tyre wear. It actually, as Isaac Price goes in, Price is into the pit lane, so this is obviously his second stop.
Yeah, he's not made a pit stop yet, actually. No, we take that back. He hasn't yet made a pit stop. He is onto pit road, 37 miles an hour. Here he comes then. Pit stop for Isaac Price. 4 fresh tyres. Going to top it up with race fuel as well. And we expect this stop to be somewhere in perhaps the 11-second range to get himself down towards the end of the race. There we see 10.9 seconds. Pretty much on the money there. Isaac Price even is out and away. Pretty good pit stop there for Isaac Price. He brings himself back out onto the racetrack, Jake.
Yeah, good stop from my man there, Isaac. Really great stop from him. 10 seconds. It's only 2 seconds really quicker than Gregor, and he's got to get more fuel. So that's a thing that could incite us onto Mogar Philo's pit stop as well. And he's only a little slower, 1.5, maybe 2 seconds slower. Then that's a lot of time that drivers can make up on the track. So Mogar could still be in with a chance, Will. You can never write him out, especially being part of that Radical Steel Series team.
Yeah, and Mogar Philo still running himself in the 7th place. He goes past pit entry, so he is going to do another lap of this tour as he now starts his 40th lap. What it does mean is now, because these pit stops are less than 11 seconds long, Aaron, we know that you can pit from here and make it to the end of the race.
Oh, certainly. And Mogar Philo stop has got to be coming soon. You've got to think already 40 laps into this race, almost 2/3 distance on a tank. So his stop's got to be coming soon. He does have 3.5 seconds over Antoine Hegelin, who's running 8th. So I do expect Mogar to be able to get out and maintain his position. So maybe he thought his qualifying lap, maybe he thought his time was a little bit faster than what he actually could do race pace. So perhaps the reason that's why he did go with the alternate strategy. So maybe it will pay off in the end. Maybe he wouldn't have had a lighter fuel load car that could have ran the speed that he thought he needed to.
Just getting ourselves a couple of replays here from Marty Piatella, and he had to slow it down there. He cut the course a little bit too much. Had to slow it down. We saw an onboard replay. Let's get one actually from Director's Cut as well. He's worked himself down into this S-curve. He just gets himself a little bit wide and has to slow that car down. You see, actually, car behind him, that was Gregor Hutu, your race leader, almost ran over him as he came out of the S-curves. A very close moment there for Gregor Hutu and might be a teller, Aaron.
Oh, very close. Sometimes when you're having a good race like Hutu's having, you just start thinking, okay, what can go wrong? And having issues with lap cars, definitely not something you want to have. Close moment there. And now Kroenke's been able to get around, but now Sturgis will have those 2 cars in front of him. And I'm sure Sturgis is aware of being able to see in front of him just how close of a call it was. So for Sturgis now, gonna have to be a little timid to get around these 2 cars. Hopefully he can get him. The timing looks he may be able to get him on the back straightaway and have no issues with him.
Antoine Hegelin coming out of pit road. Also, you've got Rocco Baroni, no, not Rocco Baroni coming out of pit road. Those 2 guys there that came onto pit road just a moment ago. Antoine Hegelin was one of them, and he is back out on the racetrack, and he is now good to go towards the end of this race. Actually got involved in a little bit of a battle there with Yorni Tamala as he came back out of pit road. Tamala was able to get that position down in turn number 1, and that's always satisfying. You made to pass the car in a close situation like that, Jake, because otherwise, if you end up behind them on heavy fuel, it really can ruin your entire strategy.
Yeah, it can ruin your entire strategy, and drivers need to make the most of that. If they can get by someone straight away, they will do anything they can do to get by that car, because if not, you're going to be sitting in that dirty air, and you know your strategy's not going to play off for you. Like some drivers, like Hutu earlier on, he actually made his strategy work very well by sitting in that draft and sitting in the toe, which is not allowing him to use a lot of fuel like the guys in front. He's saving that a little bit of fuel, which could have allowed him to actually go them extra 2 laps. So it's a lot of strategy these drivers have to think about, and I really think Gregor's the one making it work at the moment, Will.
Martin Kroenke has got that gap plug down to 1.1 seconds on the racetrack. This is as close as it has been since this pit stop.
Hugo Luis, contact.
Oh
no.
No, this is huge now for Hugo Luis, and we'll get have a look, see what's happened to him. He's got a little bit of damage. Let's see how bad it is. Going to replay
That was his
there
teammate as well.
for Hugo Luis, and a teammate incident as well. That's the last thing you want when you're battling with guys around you. Let's have a look to see what happened there with Hugo Luis as he comes underneath the bridge down towards the S section of the racetrack. You see the guys are just swarming around him. He catches with such a head of steam, comes out of the corner. I believe that is Mighty Biatella, who is just going to come into view right now. Comes down into the corner, makes a bit of contact. A half spin there for Hugo Luis, and another moment for Hugo Luis in this championship. And that is something he really, really didn't want, Jake.
That's heartbreak, Will. Everyone, I think everyone in this booth right now is feeling it for him. That's the moral of his story. It really is the moral of his season. He's not had any luck, and now even her teammate are coming together, and I feel so sorry for him. That's got to be the end of his championship hopes now.
Well,
Gregor wins this and he doesn't get anywhere, then that's going to be another 50 points to Gregor, and nearly going to be a 150-point gap, Will.
Mo Garfido, by the way, has made a pit stop by the looks of it. He's fallen down into the 10th place on the racetrack. An 11.2 second pit stop. That is good enough to go to the end, falling down into the 10th place on the racetrack. But there are guys ahead of him who are going to have to make a pit stop, so he's going to gain some of them back, Daniel.
Yeah, he definitely is, Will. I didn't think Morga quite got into the box as nicely as he would have liked, hence why the longest stop for the fuel, because it looked like the front of the car was in the air for a long time. But still, so Morga's played his strategy out, so we'll see if he's trumped anyone come the end of the second pit stops.
Mo Garfido, he is though scored in the 10th position on the racetrack for the time being, as we've now got 20 laps of this race to go this time by. The gap between Hutu and Kroenke is open back up again. You want to know the reason why? That guy, Gregor Hutu, did a 1 minute 23.897 that last time by. You might be right here, or with you guys thinking that Hutu might come into pit road a little bit earlier. Once you're into the 23s, we know you're coming onto pit road soon. And Benito also into the 23s. Potentially, he might be on pit road the next couple of laps, Aaron.
Yeah, I definitely think Hutu and Kroenke took less fuel. Their lap times have been just that little bit quicker than Sturgis, which Sturgis had amazing race pace to begin with. Kroenke's pit stop was phenomenal, maybe a little too phenomenal. I think he did take a little bit less fuel to try to leapfrog Sturgis and build up a gap. That's what I think Hutu and Kroenke are doing right now. And Hutu does stay out, maybe I would say at the pace he ran last time.
Kroenke's in.
Okay,
here comes Martin Kroenke then onto pit road for what is going to be his final pit stop of the day. That's going to look on board of Martin Kroenke in that number 2 car. So he comes onto pit road first. We are getting word, by the way, there are some issues with Jake Sturgis. This could be a big moment in this race for him. We have confirmation in just 1 moment's time that Kroenke is on pit road, and you see Enzo Benito also on pit road as well. Kroenke will come out first. He gets that job done. Let's also now go and have a look to see where Enzo Benito is going to be, as he's going to finish his pit stop and come out. Is that also Hugo Luis on pit road? The answer to that one is yes. You've got Oli Picardo on pit road. A very busy place right now, Aaron.
A very busy place, and for Hugo Luis, for the contact to happen, having it right before the pit stop, if there had been any wing damage, was not that you ever want to have contact, but that was about the best time for it to happen. if he needed a wing change to get that done. So that contact could have been a lot worse, definitely. He is running 5th. Probably he's going to get a top 5, but if Hutu ends up winning this, that's not going to be a sweet top 5 at all.
But we have got confirmation, and it is sad news. Jake Sturgis is not going to finish this race. Jake, for Sturgis, he was potentially in a shot today of becoming the first driver to win a race in both the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series and the NASCAR Peak Anti-Freeze Series powered by iRacing.com. Not going to happen after a sterling performance by him.
And what a shame. What a shame. I think he was going to go 4 or 5 laps longer than both Kroenke and Hutu. I thought he had a chance at this, and that unfortunate.
And Jake, what it does mean is once again Gregor Hutu might get an easy run to the flag.
Hutu, easy run to the flag? What you on about, Will? Hutu never has an easy run. He always works hard for it to the end, and he'll still put in even better lap times. He will always put in a 10 times better lap time than what he's done. Just running out in front on his own, he will happily put down. He doesn't ease off, does he? He never eases off and allows cruise to the end. He will always give it 100%. But Kroenke 30 seconds behind now on the racetrack, so it's a lot of ground to make up, especially when only a pit stop takes about 15-16 seconds in and out.
And let's have a ride on board with Gregor Hutu as he comes down to complete lap number 46. Will he come onto pit road this time by? Of course, he came in 3 or 4 laps later than everyone else that last time by, and he's going to come onto pit road this time. You see, pretty much almost goes to a stop there as he comes onto pit road, 37 miles an hour onto pit road. Your 3-time champion, the Team Redline #1 driver of Gregor Hutu, making his final pit stop of the day. And Aaron, this is going to be a lot easier for him now compared to what it was a couple of moments ago.
Yeah, he doesn't have to worry about Sturgis being on a different strategy. Just has to get in, get out, and start putting down the laps that, well, it seems only Gregor Hutu can do. He's headed out. Let's see where he comes out in relation to Kroenke.
And he's back out onto the racetrack. An 8.3 second stop there for Gregor Hutu. Absolutely spellbinding. And he's got himself, again, this will be about a 6-second gap on the racetrack right now. There you see Hutu. We haven't even see there's Kroenke just coming into shot right now. What a dominant performance once again by him, Aaron.
Absolutely incredible. He took what was about a 1.5 second lead and about tripled it just in about 3 laps with a pit stop. Unbelievable. And that's why you mentioned multi-time champion. That right there, Gregor Hutu at his finest.
So then, to run through your top 10, it is Gregor Hutu from Martin Kroenke, Enzo Benito, then it's Alex Simpson, Yuhu Abe, and then Hugo Louise, Bogar Filo, Oli Picano, Antoine Heglin, and Rocco Baroni. They are your top 10 as we're coming down into the closing stages of this event. We're going to step aside for just one more moment for a quick message from our friends over at iRacing. Then we'll be back for the conclusion of this, the 10th round of the championship. Stay with us here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live, because we will be right back.
The NASCAR Peak Anti-Freeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the turn. And now the 93-39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. The race to the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn #1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start-finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh,
As you love it.
here we go.
You love it. The 0-1 gets around. The 5 gets around. Big choke.
So then, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the concluding part of this, the 10th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series here from Twin Ring Motegi. Don't forget, a little bit later on PSR TV and iRacing Live, we'll be with you for the 5th annual iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. Join myself, Will Vinton, along with Aaron Likens and Paul Jenkins for that one. Start time 6 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. Eastern Time here on iRacing Live and PSR TV. Meanwhile, at Motegi, we have had confirmation that Jake Sturgios had an issue. He's classified, get this, 2 laps down right now on the field, 3 laps down even. What a tragic turn of events, Jake, for Jake Sturgios in that number 4 iNext Racing car.
Yeah, very unfortunate for him. He was having a very good race. Would have been good to see what he could have done at the end of this one after that second pit stop, whether he could have challenged Hutu and Kroenke for that top spot on the podium, or maybe even the 3rd on the podium. It'd have been interesting to see what he'd have been able to do, but we won't be able to see that now after he did have some technical issues. And I did hear as well that he did punch a wall. So to come back out of punching a wall, you must have a sore hand. So unfortunate for him, but I'm sure he'll come back in 2 weeks' time and he'll try and put out another performance and break that record.
And it's really bad, actually, because, again, we talk about history, and Jake has been chasing that history for a couple of years now, trying to win a race in both the top level tier series here on the iRacing.com service. And this seems to be, Aaron, like his best opportunity in over a year, really, to try and get that job done.
Oh, I can't imagine how deflating this is, because I think he had a heavier fuel load. He was going to go longer. He may have had something for Hutu. And anytime you at least have a chance to beat Gregor Hutu, just to have the chance means you're doing something amazing. He had that chance, and things outside his control, oh man, so deflating. You mentioned 2 weeks' time, but these 2 weeks are going to be a very long 2 weeks waiting for that next chance. And a chance like that might just come once a season, to have such an amazing start, 3 wide, outside, gain the lead. Oh, the deflation isn't even the word to begin.
Meanwhile, your race leader is the number 1 driver, the Fanatic Team Redline machine of Gregor Hutu. His lead is right now 5.2 seconds on the racetrack. We're going to take a moment. We're going to run through the field, starting off with Gregor Hutu. And let's say at the start of this race, Daniel, he did start P4. He wasn't fast in the early going, but it was all through those laps when everyone else peeled off and towards pit road that first time that he was able to get that advantage and get himself established into this race lead.
Yeah, Gregor Hutu came from 4th place, about 3 seconds off the lead at the first set of pit stops to lead by a good 1.5 to 2 seconds over Martin Kroenke. So a good move a strategic move there by Gregor Hutu, as we always see by the 3-time world champion.
Meanwhile, in 2nd place, Martin Kroenke in that number 5 car. Now, Martin Kroenke, he's had a good old race here today. And he's been within spitting distance of Hutu since the drop of the green flag, in spitting distance of the race lead. He did actually lead for a corner, of course, Jake. However, now it does seem to be that he is falling off pace a little bit, as we know that it's going to be a really tough call for him to get to the checkered flag first.
Yeah, he led 1 corner of the race, and that's all he's led for this one. And I think he's been happy to actually sit in 2nd, because he's sitting 3rd in the championship. He knows he can't go anywhere above, because Hugo Luis and Gregor Hutu, Hutu's nearly 200 points ahead of him, when his teammate Hugo Luis is about 100. So he knows he can't go higher in the championship at the moment, but he knows he can lose places, and he doesn't want to do that. He wants to sit in that top 3 in the championship, and that's what he's doing at the moment. And running consistently in 2nd, where he's settled for at the moment, is what he's going to do, and that's what's going to get him 3rd in the championship, Will.
Running 3rd right now is Enzo Benito in that number 17 Team Redline car. Now, Benito, he qualified in pole position. Of course, he bogged that one down. We'll talk about that in more detail after the race. But he has recovered since then, Aaron. And we do know that Benito, in some races this season, when he has had a tough start, he's really got into pure attack mode and almost had more incidents because of it. Today, he's, 13 seconds off the race lead, but a good performance by that number 17 OKO Fanatic Team Redline car.
A fantastic performance as he just about threw it away off the final corner. Got a little bit too much curb and had to catch it going halfway down the straightaway. But good run. Started on pole, running third. That is a podium position. Would he have maybe wanted a little bit more? Probably, but he didn't let the start fluster him, and that's something you can see where you get a bad start, you make a mistake, and once you make a little mistake, that's when the big mistakes come. But not today, running third, and he's just 11 laps away from a podium.
Running in the 4th place right now is Yuhu Abe in that running racing car. What a great performance by Yuhu Abe in that number 30 machine so far, Daniel. He's got a bit of pressure load from Hugo Louise behind him in the closing stages of this race. He has got to be careful to make sure that he doesn't throw this one away. But so far, that number 30 car doing a sterling job on the racetrack.
Yeah, Yuhu Abe has pretty much been in the top 5 since the start. He was part of that small breakaway behind Gregor Hutu, has put Gregor Hutu under pressure early in the race, has done really well, driven almost perfectly as he slides it out, turn 10, the hairpin, really nicely. And then in the last set of pit stops, he did jump the man behind him and put him under pressure, Hugo Louise. So, all good race all round by the young Rohun Racing driver.
Then in the 5th place is Hugo Louise right now in that 3ID Motorsports car. He almost threw it away, Jake. He kept it going. 5th place is not what he wants, though, especially as Hutu is again leading.
No, 5th place definitely something that Hugo would not have been hoping for in this one. He'd have been hoping for that podium position, but currently not going to be able to get that unless a miracle does happen and he gets a serious bit of luck. But he could catch on in Yuhu Abe. He's now down to just under a second behind that 4th place driver. So 4th is still in tension, and that's more points, which means less points Gregor's going to be able to stretch on him. But if Gregor wins this, it means there'll be about a 125 point gap, which with only about 6-7 races left in the season is a lot to make up.
Mogarfilo right now runs himself in the 6th place on the racetrack. Of course, Aaron, he was the first of the drivers to one-stop this event. Very slow in the early going, might have frustrated a couple of drivers, but he's been able to keep his car clean, and he's running in that 6th place right now. That one-stop strategy did work for him overall.
Yes, it did. Start of the race, he had the mentality of, I'm just going to run my line at my pace. If you can get around me, great. If not, have fun trying to. And did that, and a lot of drivers, I think, did get frustrated. But Mogar, even with the extremely heavy fuel load, was able to run competitive times and keep his car under control. And running 6th, started 5th, and perhaps he thought, I mentioned this earlier, that under light fuel load, maybe he didn't have the pace to maybe have it be so close to the top 5. So for Mogarfilo, this strategy, I think in the end is going to work out. Maybe he would have finished the same position had he done it the way everybody else has, but what fun is that? Mogarfilo taking the adventurous way to a 6th place running spot.
Oli Picardo right now runs himself in the 7th place in that lead Glacier Racing car. Now, this has been really a race to forget in some ways for Oli Picardo, but at the same time, Daniel, he's had some great moments. Let's not forget that 5-corner, 2-wide moment that he had with Alex Simpson earlier on.
That moment, that overtake has to be the overtake of the race so far from Oli Picardo. Absolutely an awesome through this part of the track right now, through turn 7 and turn 8. Also, you got to bear in mind, Picardo started in 12th. He slowly made his way through the field up to 7th, quite relatively quietly, other than his big overtake. So a good race all round from Ollie.
And then behind him in that 8th position is Alex Simpson, the guy who he was battling with earlier on. Apex Racing's lead driver, strong showing right now inside the top 10, Jake.
Yep, great showing by Alex Simpson today. He's not had the greatest season so far, but really turned on the pace in this second half of the season, and what a performance he has been doing. And I really could say he would have been able to push for a top 5 if he'd have had that luck earlier on in the race and not battling with people. But we mentioned that gap earlier between him and Oli Picardo. It was about 2 seconds, and he's sort of bringing it down. It got to about 3.5, and now it's back down to 2.4. So he has brought that gap down again, but he's shown real good pace so far today at Motegi, and maybe he's asked for something for the second half of the season.
And then to round out your top 10, you got Antoine Hegelin right now running in the 9th position. And for Antoine Hegelin, the second Apex Racing car, and he's again had a good showing so far, Aaron. And the guy behind him, Rocco Baroni, as well, strongly inside the top 10.
Yeah, haven't talked much about Rocco Baroni. A very quiet day running 10th, but Antoine Hegelin, just like Alex Simpson, for most of the race, he has seemed to have been in a battle of one form or another. So for both of them, very good that their car is still pointed in the right direction, as the fighting, the battles in the mid-pack today have been absolutely fantastic stuff. So they have earned every position they're running and have put on a great showing.
And then that guy, say, running himself in the 10th place right now is Rocco Baroni. And Baroni, we say he's had a good race. Looking as though he might be able to get himself up one more in that Movano X Team number 28 car. Gonna have a lot of work to do to get there though, because we've now just 8 laps of this race to go. He's still got about a 0.7 second of a gap to that guy ahead of him, Daniel.
Yeah, Rocco Baroni started down in 16th place, so again, a bit like Oli Picala, slowly making his way relatively silently through the field as people have fallen by the wayside and just overall pace. And he's getting very close to Antoine Hegelin. Maybe he's starting to put him under a bit of pressure, but he's running out of time to make the move stick.
And there you see riding on board with the Thruster Movano X Team car of Rocco Baroni as he tries to close down with, as we say, just 8 laps to go in this event. They are your top 10. Rest of the drivers scored on the lead lap: Isaac Price, Andre Borti, Yorni Tamala, Dion Vergers, and then your first car 1 lap down, well, that is Riku Anatolo. And then you've got Paulo Mulia also scored 1 lap down as well. Christian Red, Martin Patella, Jonas De Kurian, Jeremy Boosloop, Lee Thompson and Daniel Bida are classified 2 laps down. Then you've got 1 driver scored 3 laps down. That is Jake Sturgis, but as we know, he isn't having the race that he would have wanted after that moment just before he came down into his second pit stop. Some technical issues for him. 7 laps to go. Gregor Hutu, 6-second lead. Kind of same old story right now, Jake.
Nope, can't say any more, Will. That's been the moral of the season so far. Hutu dominance, but remember, this is going to be his 6th win on the road, 7th win overall after that run of bad luck that he did have earlier on in the season. And it's going to be a dominance. I think the championship is almost set in stone for him now, and I don't think anyone can really challenge for him now, not out of this week.
Working himself through a little bit of lap traffic as well as he came down into that 9-degree right-hander towards the end of the lap underneath the bridge, and here he comes now, just 6 laps to go for Gregor Hutu. And ladies and gentlemen, don't forget one more time, a little bit later on this afternoon on PSR TV and on iRacing Live, we bring you exclusive coverage of the 5th annual iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. 500 miles, 800 corners, 200 laps along corners, 7/8 of a mile of straightaways, and Aaron, it is going to be one for the ages in the Dallara DW12.
Yes, it is. To win the Indy 500 for the IndyCar drivers is, well, they wait all year for this race. Gonna be a good one. I can't wait for it. I know, well, we've been looking forward to this for a long time, and you name any of 10, 15 drivers that could win today. It's gonna be awesome.
So, battles to kind of close himself down for the right now. The main one we have is this one that you see right here. Hugo Ruiz trying to close down Yuhu Abe in that battle for the 4th position. But that gap is still 1 second on the racetrack, Daniel. And Ruiz is making no real inroads at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought Hugo would be a little closer after Yuho made a little bit of a mistake, a little bit of a slide. So, I'm surprised he didn't lose more time to Hugo. It looks like, I wonder if Hugo's actually just struggling in the dirty air of Yuho Abe. It looks like it, because he's sort of just stopped at about a second behind.
Yeah, he really is, and it's one of those things that dirty air has been a huge factor in this race all day long, Aaron. And it's one of those things that Hugo Ruiz, he really is still pushing it there. we were just riding on board with him, and we could see just how much he was handling that car. And he still is pushing on, despite the fact that he's only battling for P4 in this race. He knows every point matters.
Oh, right now, the battle for fourth, this for Hugo Luis, every position now is just monumental. He has got to do everything he can to get up, but for Hugo Luis, his car just has not been the same since that contact. Don't know if maybe it did a little bit more damage to the suspension as we see him wiggling his car going into the hairpin there. Kind of a bizarre line, but just got to wonder if maybe that contact did just a little bit of damage because his lap times just haven't been as sharp as they were earlier in the race.
And he's really dropped off now. That gap is now up to 1.8 seconds on the racetrack, so it looks as though that one is going to end for the time being. No other real battles. Actually, no, we've got one. We've got Jeremy Bootlink right up behind his teammate Jonas Nakurian in the latter stages of this races. And the two Radical Steel Series drivers going to try and get it on, Daniel.
Yeah, it should be interesting watching the two radical drivers battle each other. They are pretty known amongst each other, so there won't be any crazy moves, crazy dive bombs. They'll just want to bring both cars home in one piece and move on to the next race. In terms of for Jeremy Bootley, especially considering he started this race well inside the top 10.
And he actually just moved out of the way to allow Antoine Hegelin to go past. That drops him back to 1.5 seconds now behind his teammate Jonas Nakurian. So Nakurian's going to hold on for the time being. And if Nakurian can just stay where he is, in fact, the gap's too big. He won't be able to get it down into turn number 1, get lapped. But there is a small possibility that Nakurian could gain some big moves out of this, Aaron.
Yep, absolutely, running 19th, but let's see, I've lost my spot, so carry on, Will.
So having a look at some of our additional camera angles on board now with Jonas Nakurian, as he's got that fast car of Antoine Hegelin coming up behind him, but the gap between himself and Jeremy Bootley is actually something's happened to Bootley, but I think he might be classified as out of the race there, Jake.
Will, he just disconnected from the server, I believe. He just disappeared on my screen because I was watching Jeremy and he just disappeared.
Yep, so we'll get confirmation of that in just a little while. However, checking in with Ollie Picard, he's got a 2-second gap right now to Alex Simpson behind him. Simpson, that last time by, was 0.3 of a second faster, but it's really going to be tough now, Aaron, for Simpson to close that gap down with just 3 laps to go.
Yeah, just running out of time there. And for Alex Simpson, I think the defining moment of his race were the 6, 7, 8 laps he was behind Mogar Philo. Ali Pacala was able to get around, but for Alex Simpson, just couldn't do it. Just his car would not get off the hairpin. That's where he had to do it on the back straightaway. Couldn't do it, and might have had a 6th place car, running 8th though.
And Jake, we started this season with 4 different winners out of 4 different races. Ollie Picard is one of them. You also had Hugo Luis, you also had Alexei Usiakola, and of course Gregor Hutu. Then since Phillip Island, it has been one driver and one driver winning. This is now, if Hutu wins today, this is the most dominant set of victories since Hutu in the Dallara IRL 05 that made up the first ever World Championship Series. This started off being the most open series we've ever talked about, and now it's becoming the most one-sided series we've talked about.
Yeah, definitely will. It was one of the most openest series ever at the start of the season. 4 different winners, 4 different races. You know, we made history at the start of the season with that. It's never done before, but now it suddenly turned at Phillip Island. It was like Hutu just flicked the switch, and he was incredible. The way he drove is just changed, Will, from them first 4 races. I'm sure you'll agree with me that the first 4 races, he didn't seem as dominant as what he has been in the next 6 races that he's won.
Indeed, you're completely right in that. And I made comment about it here on Spotlight and also on broadcast, that it seemed to be that Hutu at the start of the season was struggling with the fact that he'd lost his teammate Adi Kirchhoff, Luke McLean, Ben Cornett. It became really a 2-car organisation, that Redline camp. He had to regroup, of course, working with a new teammate with Enzo Benito as well. But Aaron, since then, Hutu absolutely dominant, and he is 1 lap and 4 corners away from claiming victory here at Motegi.
Yeah, almost like he was just toying with everybody at the start of the season. Just, get everybody else's hopes up and then go into typical Gregor Hutu domination mode and just steal everything. So almost just playing with the competition as 1 lap to go. What a run it has been.
Yep, 1 lap now to go for Gregor Hutu as he works himself on that final lap of the race. But you've got to say, for him, it has been a race that very easily could have gone the other way. Of course, he had Jake Sturgis, who was his big protagonist earlier on. He now got a 9.6 second advantage over Martin Kroenke. But as I said, had Jake Sturgis not have had these issues, we could have been talking about a very different story. Potentially something a little bit like what we saw in that first round of the championship at Spa, when Hugo Luis and Gregor Hutu went wheel to wheel pretty much for those last 5 laps. We almost robbed one of those today, but in its place, we get a bit more pure dominance from the 3-time champion, that is Gregor Hutu. He works himself down towards that hairpin for the final time. Now, just 1 straightaway and 4 corners to go, and he will claim victory, working himself down that back straightaway for the final time, up to 170, up to 180, 85 miles an hour before he slams on the brakes for the final time in this event, moves it down, that right-hander underneath the oval for the final time. Those last couple of corners, Gregor Hutu will come out of the final corner for the final time and tear up the books, because it's now 6 wins in 6 races for the 3-time champion Gregor Hutu, and he's really making a statement about it being a 4th title for him. Just behind, you see Martin Kroenke coming past the start-finish line for him right now. He will claim 2nd place in this event, and now we wait for Enzo Benito. He will come home to claim 3rd place. Yuhu Abe, a well-deserved 4th place for him in that running racing team. Then Hugo Luis claiming 5th place in this event. Now we're just going to wait. Mogar Philo is going to come home in the 6th place overall, coming out the final couple of corners right now. He will claim 6th place in this event. He's a little bit further back, just working himself right now past the start-finish line. And then he'll have Oli Picard coming home in the 7th position overall. 8th place will be Alex Simpson. Then 9th place for Antoine Heglin. 10th place for Rocco Baroni. What a race we've seen here today, Aaron. Yes, there wasn't a lot of overtaking, but overall, it has been a very entertaining race, but one which we were kind of robbed with that last battle.
Kind of robbed, but looking at Gregor Hutu's lap times, his final 2 lap times would have put him 3rd on the grid. So with old tires in race trim, his at least lap 63, lap 64 would have put him 3rd on the starting grid and were faster than his qualifying laps. What a run. And we mentioned he's a driver that doesn't slow down, winning by 9.95 seconds. At the end, he was running just pure laps.
Yone Tamada comes past the flag, and he is the last of the drivers to finish on the lead lap. And with that, we are going to run through your final race results here from Twin Ring Motegi. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been living under a rock, you know that Gregor Hutu has been dominant, but he's going to make it a total of 6 wins in 6 races in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Martin Kroenke coming home in the 2nd place, 9.9 seconds back when all was said and done. Enzo Benito in 3rd, rounding out your podium. Yuhu Abe comes home in the 4th place. Hugo Luis, 5th place overall. Then Mogar Philo, Oli Picard, Alex Simpson, Antoine Heglin, and Rocco Baroni round out your top 10. On to page 2, Isaac Price in 11th, Andre Borgia in 12th. Yuri Tamada is the last guy finishing on the lead lap, with Dion Burgess in 14th and Ricky Alatalo in 15th. Valia Mulia comes home in the 16th position, Christian Loren in 17th, Martin Piatilla, Eunice Nakuria, and Lee Thompson round out your top 20. The rest of the results coming up on your screen momentarily. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to step aside for just 1 moment's time, and we'll be back with you for more coverage from Twin Ring Motegi from what has been the 10th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. We will be right back.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch going into turn 2. And now the 93, 39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's the race to the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh,
As you
Brad
love it.
Davies, here we go.
You love it. The 1 gets around. The 5 gets around. Big jump.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Twin and Motegi for the RaceSpotTV post-race show here from the 10th round of the championship. Confirmation then of your top 10. It's Gregor Hutu, Martin Kroenke, Enzo Benito, Yuhu Abe, Hugo Louise, Mogar Filo, Ollie Pacala, Alex Simpson, Antoine Hegelin and Rocco Baroni that make up your top 10. The rest of the results cycling through right now for you. Overall, Jake, interesting race. But one that I said before we went to commercial, we were kind of robbed there of a finish at the end.
Yeah, we were really robbed. It was very unfortunate there for what happened to Jake Sturgis and his technical issues, but end of the day, that's something that happens, and I'm sure he'll be able to bounce back in 2 weeks' time. But that was a brilliant battle we could have had there at the end, because he could have potentially challenged Gregor for that win, and Gregor would have battled back twice as hard, and that would have been an epic finish to such an epic race.
But Aaron, overall, it has been another race, another dominant race for Gregor Hutu.
Dominance, and more dominance. The words to use. Gregor Hutu's fastest lap, looking 0.2 faster than anybody else on the racetrack. At the start of the race, he was just playing with the field. He knew he had the speed. There's no reason to go for it. Running fourth early on, pit stops came. He got out in front, and for everybody else, it was game over.
Gonna have a chat to a couple of drivers very quickly. We've got Mogar Filo here. Hi, Mogar. You're the only driver to really go on that one-stop strategy in the top 10 here today. You were able to get yourself a 6th place out of it. Take us through your race.
Hi, Will. Hi, guys that are watching the broadcast. This was a quite hard race for me. I could pull a very nice lap on qualify, but put me on 5th position. And Motegi is a very hard track to overtake, so I was scared about going 2 stops. Couldn't figure out on warm-up which strategy the guys were doing, so decided to go 1 stop. Had a lot of trouble on the beginning of the race to hold the guys behind me, and even got contact that made me change the front wing on pit stop. But since I could hold the guys that were faster behind me, I could pick most of the position I lost during the first stint at the end of the race. It was a very nice result for me. had a very good car this weekend. Have nothing to complain. It was a good result for the team.
We spend 2 races in a row in Japan. Of course, in 2 weeks' time, we head over to Taiadia, the Okayama International Circuit, another round in Japan. And one of the things that drivers always say is that it's a lot more difficult to get grip on the Japanese racetracks. Can you explain that to us?
Actually, I don't know if it's something related to the asphalt used there or the long U-turns that you have on those tracks that makes things more difficult for this car. So probably it's asphalt with lower grip. So, but I don't have much problem with that because you can always tune the car to get the best balance. So it's a matter of recognizing which grip each corner will have and recognize the weather and how wind and temperature affects the track.
Well, good finish overall. Anyone you'd like to say thank you to?
Well, I have to thank for my team that helped a lot on preparation for this race. We will also thank for Steel Series and Simulahi for supporting us. And that's it.
Well, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time, Moga, in Okayama for the next round of the championship. Well done. 6th place finish. And Aaron, it worked for him.
Oh, it worked indeed. I think we all thought it wasn't going to work, that it was going to turn out a little bit worse than it did, but he proved us wrong. Great finish, and he showed it can work.
Right, we're going to wrap things up a little bit earlier today, of course. Got to get ourselves a little bit prepared for the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. Aaron and I, we've got to make the fastest flight ever to Speedway, Indiana. But, Daniel, final thoughts of the race?
It was a really good race, despite being a harder track to overtake, and we still saw some action. That overtake by Oli Picari going into turn 7 on Alex Simpson, and Gregor Hutu dominating as always on pit strategy.
Jake?
Great race. I called it from the start that it'd be someone from in that mid pack, and what was it? It was Gregor Hutu. Phenomenal racing, and a great thing to watch again, and it was good to be back again after that long old summer break that it seemed like. But congratulations to all the drivers, and see you all in 2 weeks at Okayama.
Yeah, and Aaron, before you and I make that fastest trip in the history of the universe to Speedway, Indiana, final thoughts?
Good race. I do agree. We were robbed with what could have been. Would Jake Sturgis have potentially had something? Maybe, but we will never know. So in the end, a great showing once again of just how dominant Gregor Hutu is.
And there he is, up on your screen one more time. And final confirmation then, ladies and gentlemen, of your top 10. Gregor Hutu claiming victory here today in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. And if you are taking note, yes, that is a total of 6 wins on the trot. Martin Kroenke coming home in the 2nd place, Endo Benito 3rd, Yuhu Avon 4th, Hugo Louise in 5th, Mogar Filo in 6th, Oli Picala, Alex Simpson, Antoine Heglin, and Rocco Baroni rounding out your top 10. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget the next time we are going to be on air will be on August 2nd here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live for the 11th round of the championship from Okayama. Of course, it's the track that hosted the Pacific Grand Prix back in 1994 and 1995. Michael Schumacher won both of those races. Who's going to win? In 2 weeks' time, we'll find out, of course, here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. The next round of the NASCAR Peak Anti-Free Series powered by iRacing.com, well, that'll be taking place at the track that Aaron and I are about to head off to. The Brickyard, 100 laps, that'll be live on PSR TV and MRN, the Motor Racing Network. July 29. Start time for that will be 9 p.m. Eastern Time, that's 1 a.m. GMT on Wednesday. So, from us here at Motegi, it's been a fascinating race, but Gregor Hutu, once again, just absolutely dominant. No one's been able to stop him, and he ekes out an even bigger championship lead. In just a couple of hours' time, we'll head over to to the world's greatest racetrack, that is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as we get set for the 5th annual iRacing.com Indianapolis 500. You can catch that live on PSR TV and also on iRacing Live. We'll be back with you a little bit later on from that one. In the meanwhile, for myself, Will Vincent, from Daniel Benningfield, from Jake Cameron and Aaron Likens, we will see you all a little bit later on. Thank you very much for watching. Farewell from Motegi.